All right, time being 7 o'clock, this meeting is called to order. Roll call.
Frank,
Here.
Yankton,
Here.
Harper,
Here.
Flemish,
Here.
Michael,
Here.
Schultz,
Here.
Williams,
Here.
Healy, Welch.
Okay, first order of business is to approve the minutes for 9/10 of 19.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Okay, on the topic of items added to the agenda, item number 8, slated for 8:20 p.m. was put on the agenda after the 24-hour cutoff period. That was brought to my attention at a later date. That's actually not legal to do that. Section 1-25-1-9 said that it must be put on the agenda 24 hours preceding the meeting, and it must be posted on the website. So we're going to, that also, coupled with the fact that the state's attorney cannot be here tonight, will be deleted from the agenda.
Was it
And-
noticed to the paper?
Yes, it was.
Because I requested that to be added.
Yeah.
It was on the drawer and I sent it to me at 24 hours.
Reconsideration of actions taken on October 4th.
The 8:20 p.m. item that she's, what she's
Yeah.
talking about. I requested that be added. I came into the office yesterday and asked.
I think we could have a
I
discussion
sent you an
on
email,
it.
Christie, right, that I wanted to talk about something in relation to that. I sent you an email over the weekend. I didn't
Right.
really get a response, so I was hoping you got it. But that's why I came in the office to talk to Jessica about it. And we talked about this. And she consulted with somebody. I'm not going to speak for Jessica. And
Yep.
said that what she did was the way to do it. So what did we miss? The website? Or?
Gotta
It was
be up-
noticed to the papers, right? But I'll
Yeah.
let you
It's
speak.
got to be updated on the website as well, and that, I know when I checked it at 9 o'clock in this morning, it hadn't been updated. So I think to be safe, we should just do that. And I had requested that the state's attorney or the deputy state's attorney attend. That was supposed to happen, but in the parking lot, I got a text that he can't make it tonight. So I think it would be best to reschedule that. Unless you want to have the discussion,
You can discuss but not take an action.
yeah.
Yeah,
If
we
you-
could
if
discuss
that's
it.
fine.
I
At
have
the
things I
end.
need to discuss, so.
Okay.
Okay,
Discussion is fine,
discussion
just
is
no
fine,
official action.
But we can't take any official action. Is that acceptable to you?
Do I have a choice?
No.
That makes it,
Then I'm not going to answer that question.
All right. That being said, approval of the agenda with section 820 would be discussion only for the reasons I just said.
Did you make that motion or?
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for somebody to make a motion to approve the agenda as amended. Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I said aye, I think. I don't know if you heard it.
Okay.
Is there time to discuss the agenda, how to prepare the agenda now, or should we discuss that later?
Let's do that later. We'll wanna get
Administrative
going.
items, can we discuss that?
Sure thing. Are there any conflict of interest declarations at this time?
no.
Okay, hearing none, we can proceed with the regular agenda. Jim Denherter, 180 Oak Hills Drive. Applicant is requesting a variance to decrease the minimum lot requirement from a total of 1 acre to a total of .49 acres, as it is 2 lots in contiguous frontage with the same ownership. See section 1603. A variance to reduce rear yard requirement from 20 feet to 10 feet, and a variance for an additional accessory structure, which is 1,200 square feet with 12-foot sidewalks. Lots 9 and 10 of Block 3, Oak Hills, Section 13, T93 North, Range 57 West, Ziskov South Township. Is there someone here to speak on this issue? Thank you.
Yankton from 180 Oak Hills Drive. For our last meeting, Kurt, Oliver, and myself came to an agreement that actually option B was to put it down below, behind in the bottom corner of our property, and that has been given his blessing, I guess, is he's letting put it.
All right.
Knowing that that's an access, what used to be an access road coming up from the bottom, will grant us access into that area of that property.
Awesome.
Kurt is also willing to give me a lifetime easement to drive. His area is flat down below, so he's willing to give me a lifetime easement to drive on his property. It's just going to remain grass, but at least so I can get pulled out and get
That's
back
great.
with the boat. So that part of it was a very easy discussion on the end. So.
Awesome.
And then as far as the 10-foot back side yard, due to the elevation changes where the 2 trees are up on top, there's about, from that tree line to the first corner of the shed, is about a 14-foot drop from elevation. And so the 10-foot, I need to be within the 20 feet, but it could be 12, it could be 14, it could be 16, just depending on what it looks like as we start to cut out the hill. So it's not a definite 10-foot sides. It won't be any closer than 10 foot. It's probably going to be farther away than the 10 foot.
Okay.
Because we're going to end up pouring two side walls, basically, the back wall and the side wall.
Okay. Well, I commend you both on finding a compromise. We appreciate your effort in doing that. And we wish that more people were able to do that, so we really do
pretty easy,
appreciate it.
actually. I mean, that was actually our second option.
All right.
To put it down there. We probably should have discussed it before we came in.
Well, that's all right.
So.
It goes a long way working with your neighbors.
It does,
And
Yeah. Okay, so do we have any questions for Mr. Denherter? So he has topography issues that he has to deal with that.
And I've also visited with Mr. Morrison, who's the house directly below him, and he has nothing on the backside of his house that's affected by views. There's no windows, there's no nothing. His only request was that I do proper drainage,
Sure.
so that he doesn't get affected by it. His garage is the piece that juts out to the cement there. But his only request was that we put gutters on and drain it properly.
when you came in, did you ask to have your lot varianced, or did you just say, hey, I want to build this building, what do I need? And because there's 2 variances going on here. There's one for...
So originally we asked for a
Yeah.
30 by 40 building up on top.
Okay.
And then meeting setbacks and so on and so forth, was just because of the size.
Okay.
We needed or wanted to be able to
Okay.
a pontoon in that vehicle. We don't have a garage up there right now to put vehicles in.
But you were told you needed a variance to go from 1 acre to 4.49, correct? All right.
Yeah.
This is still the same variance that we overruled the necessity for last time, and as far as that goes, I'm gonna do that again. I still think this is not something that needs to be done or should be done. So, just so you know, that's gonna happen again here tonight. But your other variance will stand on its own.
You're gonna suggest
So-
that, we haven't voted yet.
I'm gonna make a motion.
It's just a
So
little
you understand what he's
sarcasm.
saying? He's just saying you don't have to variance the lot size because it's a lot of record. All right.
And that was just coming from Brian. So I was just
understand
following
that.
what
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
was suggested at that
Yep,
time.
we understand. All right. Any other questions while he's standing there patiently? Okay, thank you, sir. So,
Waiting for public comment.
oh yes, I'm sorry. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this particular issue? In favor or against, it doesn't matter. Okay, hearing none. Time for public input is now closed.
I'm going to make a motion to separate these two variances, and I'm going to make a motion to deny the motion to take the two lots and point and variance the size of the two lots. And I'm going to deny it as unnecessary, according to section 1603.
Am I allowed to speak to that?
You certainly can.
Okay. Now, from what I understand in that section 1603, the way it was explained to me, and perhaps you can change that, I don't know how the next administrator is gonna
Yep.
consider this. But in that section, it goes on to say that as long as the lots are not in continuous frontage with other lots in the same ownership. These are two lots in continuous frontage with the same ownership. So according to our office, it needs to have a variance.
So
It's no
according
longer-
to, I'm sorry, I'll let you finish if you will.
That's-
According to what Mr. McGinnis started clear back in 2001, he put this in there, and then all developments throughout the county would then had to have put all their lots together. And Mr. McGinnis, in his infinite wisdom, thought this was a good idea. Because originally, we had 40 acres on every piece of property in Yankton County. So every development, Mr. McGinnis thought we should take out all the lot lines and put them back to 40 acres. That was quickly overruled by multiple county commissions, multiple planning commissions, and there's been a precedent set for 16 years not to do this. Through 2 zoning administrators, half a dozen incarnations of the planning commission, and 4 or 5 different county commissions. But we have a temporary zoning administrator for 4 to 6 months that decides we're going to all of a sudden go back in time to 2001, and we're going to go back to McGinnis's grand plan of the way things should be done. There's clearly been a precedent set over the last 16 years that we're not doing this. This has not been done even once in that 16 years, and it's not going to be done while I'm here. And if it has to be, we'll go to a legal challenge for this. I've had enough of this foolishness from the previous zoning administrator. This is not the way we do business as Yankton County, and it's not the way we should be doing business as Yankton County. And I'm sorry to yell at you, but you're the face of the zoning office right
And
now.
I have to say, is I know that I'm the face of that, but I feel like the abusive language that's being stated, it's to me. It's not to the former administrator, it's not to an interim administrator, it's to me. So I do take offense to it, and I'm at a loss of what to do, because this is what's been interpreted to me, and then I get to come here and I get to get yelled at twice now in a row.
Well, it's going to
And-
happen again and again here as long as this goes on. This is not
So
the way.
I'll continue to get yelled at, just so I know what I'm.
Well, if you're gonna stand up and defend it, you're gonna get yelled at. That's the way it is.
Okay, well, I just need it to be said that according to my understanding, 1603 says if the lots are in continuous ownership, which these lots are, then it's no longer grandfathered in.
Okay, my motion still
I can't tell you what the
stands.
next person's gonna interpret that is, but I do have to say, I don't appreciate getting yelled at in a professional setting like this.
Yeah,
I have
think
to say
there's-
that.
I think there's several of us don't appreciate what's going on right now, so.
Well, I've been here for a hot second. I don't think I deserve the treatment, so that needs to be said.
yeah. My motion stands.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Is that you, Greg?
Yes.
We have further discussion.
Yeah.
I would agree, every single one of these that has gone up to the planning commission has gotten defeated, and then at the Board of Adjustment, every single one that has gone up, except for the one that the applicant specifically requested. So if there, there's certainly a precedence has been set, and I guess that's maybe just another area, 1603, we need to look at our zoning ordinance and updating, and we realize this has gotten a few years on it now. There are some things that need tweaking, and I think section 1603 should be on that list to look into, just to alleviate the concerns. So, thank you.
I think that on the section 1603 and a little bit of what Dan was saying, because of the fact that the precedent has been set over this long period of time, that 1603 should be a priority in the next meeting that we have, where we talk about amending, and then get it down in black and white, because the issue becomes, it's not in black and white. The way the original rule reads, it's not what has been happening. Mm-hmm. And that's why we talk about revamping or changing the ordinance as time and things progress, is to keep up with things, and we can't be burdened with all these variances to come in and do all this stuff, because we've already set a precedence before on this. But without having it as we think it should be right now, in black and white, it's still a big gray area that needs to be addressed and be put down in black and white, so that we know that that's what we're dealing with.
Right, I think that's a good
Avoid
idea.
all the variance process.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote when you're ready, please.
Frank?
Yes.
Hanson?
Yes.
Harper?
Yes.
Gomish?
Yes.
Michael?
Yes?
Schultz?
Yes.
Williams?
Yes.
Motion carried.
Okay, do we want to make a motion on the requested variance from 20 feet to 10 feet? And list topography as a hardship?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, and do we need to rule separately on the variance for the accessory structure, or can we just do this in one motion?
I think we can do it all together.
Have
It's
we
one
done,
structure.
haven't we done separate though? I mean, in case there's a question. I don't know.
Well,
It seems like if there's a
I suppose
question.
it's possible if somebody wants to vote differently on one or the other, if somebody.
Right, I mean, it's because this has got to go up to the,
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
it's got to go beyond us, right? I mean, we're just making recommendations, so if they want to check it apart later, it would be more difficult. It's the only thing I'm thinking. It's my thought.
all right, so you want to make a motion on the yard requirement variance?
And that yard requirement is down to
From 20 feet to 10 feet,
20 to 10 in the back is the only one.
apparently.
Is that right? Yeah. Jessica said that's right.
I'll make that motion.
We have a second?
I'll second.
We have further discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, would you like? any additional-
Yeah, I just think it's great. We did a continuance because there was a disagreement with the neighbors, and you guys took time out and found a compromise that worked for everybody, and I think you should be applauded for that, and thank you for doing that, so.
It's a breath of fresh air
It really is.
It is, it is.
It really is.
that people can compromise and come together and work together.
It can still happen. It can still happen, so,
There's hope for us all.
yeah.
That's right. Okay, any other discussion before we have a vote? Okay, so this is a roll call vote to approve the yard variance from 20 feet to 10 feet due to topographical issues on the rear yard. Roll call vote whenever you're ready, Jessica.
Frank?
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Clemish,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes,
Williams.
Yes.
motion carried. Okay, is there any discussion about the accessory structure? It is a lot of record.
What, are you in R2 or R3? What is he in right now? R2. So he's building a 1,200 square foot, correct?
Yeah,
Does he need a, isn't that what he's,
he's got a detached garage.
oh, okay, that's why, yep. Got it.
Wasn't it the issue the last time was that it was an addition to, right?
Yeah,
So,
that's what it was, yeah, okay.
am I correct?
Yeah.
And the other buildings add up to how many square feet? Do you know? Do you know how many? So you're allowed one accessory structure without a variance, you know?
I'm guessing the garage is 16 by 18, so whatever that math's out to.
Okay. And there weren't there other sheds too?
There's you took the white, you have a picture in front of you or not?
I do have the picture that was provided, yep. Bear with me one second. Yep, I do have it here.
So
So,
the garage is, if you're looking at it this way, if I can just,
yep, I'm looking at that way, yep.
this garage right here is the garage, 16 by 18.
Okay. All right, so refresh my memory here, but, so
This is where the shed is going, so that utility
So
shed
that
is
one's
going.
coming out, and then there's
This is
one-
just a little yes cabin,
oh, I see.
like what you see down in the end there.
Okay. Gotcha, okay.
All right.
Just for the rest of the board too, this is another situation where we need to look at a change in the zoning ordinance, because if you're gonna follow this directly, it says you are allowed one 1,200 square foot accessory structure. But the precedent has been set over the years that what we try to do is add the accessory structures together
Okay.
so that you don't have more than 1,200 square foot combined, whether it's in 2 or 3 or whatever accessory structures. So this is a precedent that our temporary zoning instructor seemed to like, so it's okay. But the other ones that he doesn't like are not okay.
Well, all right, I'll take that with a grain of salt. but-
Just read.
Correct. We need to make it so that it says you can have accessory structures in aggregate totaling not more than however many square feet, because that's what we actually do. You know?
Yeah, if that's the direction that the community wants to go, then.
Correct. That's what has been done in the past.
It seems to be the desire of the applicants to come in, is
Yes.
they want more
There's-
space.
It's,
and-
it's hard to argue to somebody that has one small accessory structure on a property they bought that they can't build a garage or have another accessory structure. It just doesn't make sense.
Well, I mean, if the,
You don't want to have 20 of them, so that's why you put a total number that you can
well, that's some of the
have.
discussion the last time, I think, was, well, can I bring in 20 little sheds?
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
would you rather see 20, or 1,200 foot square foot sheds, or 1,200?
1,200
square
ones,
foot? Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds of different ways of looking at it,
Mhm.
right? I mean, there was a comment made about the applicant's last application, didn't like steel-sided buildings. Well,
Mhm.
that's the kind of a,
Yeah.
everybody's got their preference, so you have to, it's a, you know, preference versus what the need versus what the community wants to see, that's all mixed together. Anyway, I don't want to get too philosophical.
All I'm saying is we're following the ordinance no more closely on this one than we are on the one that I made a motion to deny.
All right, so do we have any more discussion, or do we have a motion? On the accessory building?
I will make a motion to approve the variance for the additional accessory structure of 1,200 square feet with 12-foot sidewalls.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote whenever you're ready.
Frank,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes?
Harper,
Yes.
Clemish,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes,
Williams,
Yes.
motion carried. Okay, next item on the agenda, Joseph Brandt, 4110 South Dakota Highway 50. Applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to expand a residential use in a commercial district. Tract B, except the east 169.01 feet of Brandt's addition in the east half of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter in section 10, T93 North, range 55 West, Mission Hill South Township. And if whoever wants to speak, if you could come up and state your name for the record, please.
Joseph Brandt.
All right. So Joe, tell us what you'd like to do.
I want to put a pergola over my patio.
You want to put what?
A pergola.
A perdilla?
Pergola.
Pergola.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't think I could be hearing that right. I've never heard of a perdilla
Well,
before.
then, don't allow it. I don't think it's allowed.
Whatever that is.
All right. So what is a pergola? Please say it one more time.
Pergola.
Pergola, okay.
Just
So is it like
posts
a,
and
so like a
boards
gazebo
around.
kind of thing?
Kind of like a gazebo,
I
yeah.
see.
It won't have a roof, it'll be, maybe some slats on top.
Oh, okay, kind of like they have over there by Culver's.
Kind of like a garden arbor, but bigger.
Oh, cool. All right. That sounds neat. So why is that expanding a residential use? Why isn't that just a building permit?
Exactly.
That's what I thought.
Under the last two zoning administrators, this would have come in and gotten a building permit. We have
I just
before
wanted
us,
a building permit, and they told me I had to do that.
we have before us now a conditional use that isn't even listed in the book, expansion of a residential
Well,
use.
yeah, that sounds like he wants to build a housing development.
My house has been there for 60-some years. or
Yeah.
Since the 60s, I guess.
It looks like this property is cut into with half of it commercial and half of it residential.
Oh, I
And
see. So it's one of
when-
those
Yeah,
split
When
use
they
things.
done the zoning, they put my front part of my property that my house was on, they put that in commercial, and my back field was residential.
Oh,
It just
my
happened about
goodness.
2 months ago with that other old boy building.
Yeah, he wanted to build a garage.
Yeah, same thing.
Well, the reason for the commercial zoning is to allow the open places that are along there to develop in the way that is technically the best use for Yankton County. So the reason you wanted to put commercial zoning out there was, at that time, it was believed that the city would develop out there commercially. We had things like TSC and the hotel and all those things were new. And those things are commercial and need big parking areas in the front and things like that. So the intent of putting the commercial zoning on there was to take the open pieces of property and put them to the best potential use that they had. However, that type of, when we did this, we didn't expect Ryan McGinnis to decide that everything had to then be conditional used or varianced in an existing lot. Those things were grandfathered in. They were supposed to be able to move forward in the way that they were. It was not our intent to have hundreds or thousands of conditional uses and variances coming in for existing properties. They are what they are. They're not a non-conforming use in their district. They're just a conditional use in the district. So as a conditional use, they should be considered an acceptable use. They technically were there before zoning. And through the last two zoning administrators, all Joe would have had to do was come in and say, I'd like to put up an accessory structure, and he would have gotten a building permit for an accessory structure. We had, in the time I was on the board, several administrative reviews where people wanted things where, like a gazebo or some other type of shed that's simply not listed. And to be honest with you, those things aren't listed in residential either. There's no pergolas or gazebos listed as uses in residentials. It's just an accessory structure.
The carport.
He should have been
Yeah.
able to just come in and get a building permit for an accessory structure.
More of a direct, declaration than anything.
Yeah.
And the worst part is, you know, everybody in that area has already come in and gotten permits for doing things over the last 16 years in that area. You know, it's different if you were a use that was not supposed to be in that zone. If that's what a not real non-conforming use is. He's not a non-conforming use. He's a conditional use that hasn't had a conditional use because he was already there. If you're gonna put a conditional use on this, then you need to put a conditional use on every single person who has a conditional use on their property that hasn't gone through the conditional use process. Whether that's Zane's feed yard or Genesis feed yard or your place, you know, every single place in the county would have to do this. $450 for each thing.
It's ridiculous.
Oh, we don't have time to do
No, we don't have
that.
time.
Goodness sakes, we'd be here every night.
Well, it doesn't seem, even my interpretation when I read through a lot of the ordinances, that was the intention, is to make everybody that.
No.
That's the term grandfathering,
That's what the
that's all
term
about.
grandfather is for.
Because it's almost impossible to go, and that would be pitchforks and torches if you told everybody, well, sorry, it was good yesterday, but it's not good today, you gotta come in and get a permit to keep what you have. That doesn't usually work so good. But, and it also points out the problem with zoning through a piece of property. You know, we've talked about this before too, and I don't want to get into much into this and hold up the applicant, but that's another issue. that-
One neighbor goes right through his house.
Yeah, and it just creates a lot of problems.
Somebody drew a bad line.
So,
So-
And
John,
these arguments were had when this was done.
But again, it just reinforces what we've
Yeah.
already talked about. So like, when Dennis mentioned, things on our list, these things have come up just in my short tenure of
Yeah.
6 months here, and they've come up several times, so it's just another.
The worst of it is, we're dealing with things now, and we're dealing with multiples of things that have never been a problem in the last 16 years.
Okay,
Well,
well,
we'll get
let's
past
get
that.
back on topic. I agree with you 100%, but time is sliding by here, so. Do we have any other questions for Joe before he takes a seat and I ask for public comment? Now that we know you're not building a, what'd I say, perdilla?
What is that, by the way?
you don't want to
Turn
know.
on the TV once in a while and shut the book.
All right, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this issue? Okay. Hearing none. The time for public input is now closed. Do we have any other additional discussion on Joe's permit? I wasn't trying to be rude by shortening your discussion, but I just want to keep moving forward. Okay.
Well, you don't make a habit of that. We're doing-
I try not to. It happens sometimes.
It's a
I'm
teacher
sorry.
thing.
It's a teacher thing.
Right.
All right.
Well, had I known about this early enough, I would have asked Mr. Brandt to go in and ask for an administrative review, because that's what really should have been done. The zoning administrator should have had to come in and presented his case for this to us and had us rule on it one way or the other. It's kind of hard now,
Well, it's kind of moot point now.
you know, to do it that way.
Sure.
We don't have one right now,
That's right.
so I'm told.
It would be a ghost review.
So I make a motion to approve the conditional use permit to expand the residential use in a commercial district.
What number conditional use is that, by the way?
Well, as described on this application.
Article
There is no
10.
such conditional use.
Article 10,
Okay, so
section
should I
10,
rephrase my?
07 is what is quoted in here. What's on his permit or conditional use.
So
Cover
am I
sheet.
incorrect, then you feel I'm incorrect in stating it that way?
Yes.
I'll withdraw-
You're
I'll withdraw
asking
my
to approve
motion.
a conditional use that
I'll
doesn't
withdraw my
exist.
motion, Madam Chair.
I-
I'll withdraw my motion.
This isn't, they're not requesting a conditional use for his property, are they? Is it just for that little,
No.
just for the
They're saying he's expanding a residential
whole-
use.
So he needs conditional.
They're saying this pergola expands his residential use.
So,
Problem is.
You're not gonna live in this pergola, are you?
What do you
Friday
think
you
the
won't be.
best course of action is to deny it and say it's not required and
It
issue a
says-
building permit?
That's what I would like to do. And that's what probably the next applicant would like to do.
I think they know each other.
It's certainly the way it's been handled before.
Seem to.
Okay, so are you going to make that into a motion
I'll make a motion to deny the conditional use permit
and state why?
as unnecessary.
It's unnecessary. And maybe add a recommendation.
And
to
add a
that.
recommendation for the zoning administrator to issue him a building permit for an accessory structure.
We have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote when you're ready.
Frank,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Clemish,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
So then all I gotta do is go to building permit?
That's the plan.
Yep. Okay. All right, next item on the agenda, Brenda Brandt. 4206 East Highway 50, applicant is requesting a conditional use permit to expand a residential use in a commercial district. Lots 4 and 5, except the north 45 feet, and except lot H1 in the east half of the southwest quarter of the southeast quarter in section 10, T93 North, range 55 West in Mission Hill South Township. All right, I need you to state your
I
name.
am Brenda Brandt.
Thank you. Okay, so you want to build a deck on the back of the house and an arbor in the front?
Yes.
Okay. And again, we have a mixed use of zoning, residential and commercial, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if I want to build it behind my house, for the back, it wouldn't be a problem, but I would like it next to the house.
It says the deck in the back and so the arbor in the front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it just, yeah. And it's not pretty as an arborist Joe's gonna have, but. You know, I
see.
can't keep up with my
Yeah, you
brothers.
guys are competing against
Yep.
the,
There's no way, you can see his deck. I
Gotta-
mean,
Is
his,
this one of those?
Better House and Garden.
Remodeling wars on
Yeah.
TV or something?
pretty much.
Keep up with the Brandts,
Yeah,
right?
right.
Sounds like a new TV show.
Sure you don't want to build a pergola?
Well, no, not that nice. Mine's just a simple.
Yeah, if you call it a pergola, we already know what to do now, so.
Once I see this, I might change my mind, but
So it's mixed zoning then, right? Because it says commercial all over the application, so what is the other zone?
Residential.
Commercial and
Residential.
Okay, which residential then?
It's high density rule, R3.
R3? Just to be clear.
I have it on the map right here if you
Oh,
want to see.
yeah,
it.
that's, I, you know, I always go by the paper, but I can't.
If you want to see, that's this property.
She lives one house away from it,
This
so
was here.
one house in between.
So the red is-
It's their mom's house.
Thank you. That,
Somebody reading that, it sounds like something really, like a really big deal to read the application.
yeah, one of my neighbors called to see what I was doing. I'm like,
Yeah,
"I just want a
exactly.
deck."
I had a half a dozen calls on, what are they doing? Are they putting apartment buildings in? Are
Exactly,
they-
that's what it sounds like they're
I
gonna
know,
put up an
and why
apartment
didn't
building
Painter
or
say
housing
more about what we're doing
development
instead
or.
of, you know,
legal descriptions, I guess.
Well, this is exactly the same as the previous one and should be treated the same as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for Brenda before I ask for public input from the audience? think you guys are gonna brighten up the neighborhood.
Have you seen my front yard?
It's colorful.
Yes.
Okay, any more questions for Brenda? No? All right, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak on this issue? All right, hearing none. Time for public input is now closed. Any additional discussion, or I would entertain a motion?
Evidently, I'm going to make a motion again to deny the conditional use and recommend that she go into the zoning administrator and get a building permit.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Roll call vote whenever you're ready.
Frank,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes?
Clemish,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes.
Williams.
Yes. Sorry.
For my clarification, with you recommending the denial, does that recommend to the Board of Adjustments, or do they come in tomorrow and get a permit?
As far as I'm concerned, they should be able to come in and get a permit. You can talk to the state's attorney and see what he says if you feel uncomfortable with that.
Okay.
If it's going to go anywhere other than that, I would appreciate a notification on it, because I'll probably have them do an administrative review.
Okay.
All right, so motion carried. Catching up again. Almost. All right. Next item on the agenda, Edwin and Sue Hill at 30977 435th Avenue. Applicant is requesting a conditional use permit for a hobby farm in a low-density rural residential district. The southeast quarter of the southeast quarter, except the east 75 feet thereof, and except lots 1 through 5 of Turkey Hill Addition in Section 6, T93 North, Range 56 West in Utica South Township. Is there someone here to speak on this permit? Hi, could you state your name, please?
Sue Hill.
Okay, Sue, tell us what you would like to do.
We would like to have a horse on the
How-
property.
How many?
One at
One.
this time, with the possibility of another one in a couple of years. But at this time, just one. It's not something you need to get into too quickly.
And how big is your lot?
Our property is 11.87 acres.
Okay. Well, that's more than enough acreage for one horse. Or two horses, for that matter. All right. So that would, one horse is like 2 animal units?
1.4.
Oh, they changed it. Used to be 2.
No, that's what it shows here.
Okay.
I believe, oh, no, I am wrong. I'm wrong.
I thought it was 2.
2, yeah, I was reading one line below.
Okay, no problem. Yeah.
2, yeah.
Two.
Yeah, it is, yep.
Yep.
Two.
I was reading
And I
wrong.
believe you're allowed 10 animal units on a hobby farm.
I think
Yeah.
it goes by acres, doesn't
I
it?
think the definition doesn't talk about animal units.
1 acre for every animal unit is what it states.
Oh, it does
Okay.
say, yes, it does spell out, I'm looking for the AU, you're right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, yeah.
Something about
Yeah.
the maximum on a hobby farm, maybe I'm wrong.
Yep, I missed it.
Two
Missed it
horses.
earlier.
2 acres per horse.
But this is.
Not to exceed 10
That won't be enough.
animal units.
Right,
Yeah, that gets beyond a hobby farm.
Yes.
11 acres, you might have enough grass for
What a
one
team we
horse.
are. What a team.
They'll ruin most of it.
Sort
And
of
this
here,
is in an R1.
Yep,
which is.
low density.
Which specifically lists. hobby farm?
6078, conditional use. Section 607, number 8.
Appears to
So
meet
is
all the
that static
requirements.
here? 607 number 8. All right. So do you have him picked out?
John and Dennis, when you've done these in the past, do you authorize for a certain number of animal units?
It says 10
Or-
animal units here.
okay.
I thought it
So-
was 10.
It does say maximum.
Isn't it per?
Yeah,
per-
maximum of 10.
Isn't it though for, is maximum of 10? Or
Yeah,
is
so
it
that
so
would
many
be-
per acre? Okay.
And
Let's
then
If she
it
has
says-
enough acreage, she doesn't have enough acreage for 10
No.
horses.
Okay.
No, and 10 horses would be 20 animal units.
Correct.
Right.
So the most she could have would be 5, and if it's one
Right.
animal unit per acre,
Yep,
she could have 11, so that would be
5.5.
5.5 horses.
5 and 1 pony,
One,
right?
one,
1 Shetland.
How many turkeys?
or a baby, but you gotta sell them before they get big. All right. Do we have any other questions for her? I'm assuming the acreage is fenced.
It will be, it's
Okay.
in the process of being. yeah.
Right, okay. And as a horse owner, I might recommend on a small acreage that you divide up your pasture and then rotate, just so he or she doesn't like just eat in one spot. And never mind. You know how to take care of your own animals. Sorry. Okay, any other questions for Sue before I ask for public input? Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this issue? Okay, hearing none, time for public input is now closed. Do we have any additional discussion from the board? This is a permitted use, she's well under her limit.
It's conditional use.
Conditional use. Excuse me, it's a permitted conditional use, which is why she's getting a conditional use permit.
The only thing sometimes we look at is conditions, but I don't have one right here, as long as the only concern I would have had is fence, you know.
Right, and we did ask her that, so. And I don't hear any neighbors complaining. So their needs, you know, if they had any questions, they should have attended and they could have had those addressed.
I don't think for 2 horses we need to worry about manure management too much, do we, or anything like that, or fly control, or?
Out there,
Hmm?
out there,
Hmm.
I'll make a motion.
Okay,
I'll second it.
to approve it?
Conditional use for hobby farm in a low density residential area. It's covered in Article 6, Section 607, number 8.
Yep.
Adhere to the guidelines as far as anything else for hobby farm.
All right.
Should we state the maximum number
Right,
in there?
so the
Should-
maximum number you could have would be 5 horses altogether. So,
Should we put that, I mean, I don't want anybody to
Well, you-
modify it, or?
I don't think you can really even put that in there.
I don't think you
If
can
she-
put that in.
Once she has a hobby farm, if she decides to get a goat and a couple
Oh.
of chickens.
Oh, yeah,
it's
that's true.
just-
She
It's
could
just
get
animal
different.
units per the acreage, and he's already stated that in the motion, so
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
kind of
That's what I
covered.
think.
Yeah, agreed.
It's just about what the land will hold, not
Right.
not saying
Right.
a number in any specific animals.
You can have 5.5 animals, well, total of
Horses.
10 animal units
Right.
total on the property. So a horse, 2 horses,
I mean, yeah.
Mix
yeah,
and
2
match.
horses
The
and a
animals,
goat and a
but you
cow.
can't
Yeah.
exceed 10 animals.
10 animal units
Right.
altogether. Okay. All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I did.
I think
You
we do.
did. All right. So, roll call vote when you're ready.
Frame,
Yes.
Hanson.
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Clemish,
Yes,
Michael, Schultz,
Yes.
Williams.
Yeah,
Motion carried.
yay.
To Mrs. Hill, I would recommend 2 horses. Honestly.
or a horse and a
horses are
goat.
buddy-
They get-
horses
they
are
get-
buddy things.
they get
Otherwise, the
lonesome.
horses will be taken off to the neighbors.
Very lonely. You'll be lonely.
Yeah.
just make sure they're fixed or you'll have 3.
Like rabbits, huh?
Boy, I tell you, they get all kinds of information.
This is where this is a full.
You're welcome.
After that second one dies.
Good luck.
That's a good point though,
Yeah.
because even with race horses, they'll put a little goat or a calf, they'll have a companion animal.
Messing with it, basically for your
It's hard to get rid of a horse.
They do like to be with other animals, just like cows too. I mean, they're herd animals, Jesus, you can have 500 steers. And one gets out. So I just want to get into his pen. I don't care how many $15.
go back to the social orders.
Let's go sort through them, wherever the hell that might be. And if you don't, really drive the hell out of them. You know, what a bugger.
Okay, next item on the agenda, Doug Marquardt. 30653 North US Highway 81. Applicant is requesting a rezone from rural transitional district to a commercial district. Lot 1 and the north 100 feet of Lot 2 and Jodine's addition in section 24, T94 North, Range 56 West in Utica North Township.
Doug Marquardt.
Thank you. And what are you planning?
Good evening. You have before you an application to rezone the real property and a conditional use permit for land I own at 30653 North Highway 81. It's the location of Marquardt Transportation, MW Towing, and the former Jodine's Restaurant. We acquired the property in 2011 with the intention of relocating our trucking operation, which was located just south of the Flint Northtown facility. At the time of purchase, we discussed with Yankton County Planning and Zoning our plans. We were told that the property would someday be zoned some type of highway commercial, and that we were free to proceed. We obtained a building permit for that facility, and also spoke with the state about continuing to use the lagoon, as there is no sanitary sewer available to service the property. The building was built and we moved in 2011. Last year, we received another building permit to add on a few bays to the south side of the current shop facility. Visiting with Brian McGinnis, he informed us that we were not properly zoned for this type of trucking use. He understood that we had relied in good faith on representations made to us previously by the office and staff with the assurance that the property would be zoned in the future consistent with the our long-range plan. To remedy the situation now, he suggested we file the necessary applications to bring the property into zoning compliance. I have completed all the necessary paperwork, submitting it with attending drawings, and included the fee. I'm here to answer any questions you might have. We have operated at all times with the proper county permits and in good faith. We are doing to meet the approval of Yankton County. Oh.
Thank you.
Take a breath, eh?
Any questions or?
Do you have you don't have a conditional use permit now, do you?
You know, that came up in 2011. Mrs. Frang, I think you might have been on.
I remember it.
I remember a commissioner saying if they want to build out there in that area of the stockyards, that go ahead and do it. But I don't honestly remember if there's conditional use or not.
Because you're in rural transitional now, correct?
Correct.
And then, yeah, if we did this, and turned it into commercial on section 1007 under conditional uses, number 23 truck or equipment terminal, that probably would closest resemble what you're doing, is that correct?
Yes.
Correct.
And that is a conditional use.
And it's definitely a commercial operation. I mean, there's no doubt about that. They employ quite a few people there.
So as far as you know at this point, you don't have a conditional use permit?
I could not honestly answer that.
Okay.
I'm thinking there's gotta be a conditional, I know we put conditions on you about the lagoon and fencing the lagoon and, you know, just certain things that we do. I remember talking about those, like if it wasn't a conditional use on the property, it was somehow on that lagoon, but I can't, you know.
I think the original lagoon behind Jodene's was basically just all over ground. It really wasn't conforming actual waste lagoon. And then when you
I don't follow.
built back in there, then you dug a regular,
You redid the lagoon.
We redid
The
the
lagoon's
lagoon.
not the original lagoon from,
It's
I know there was
approved by,
cattails and stuff.
it's-
growing in
yeah.
that one that Jodene's had.
it's a much
It's all-
bigger, better lagoon than it was.
Did you say it's approved by the state? Is
so it
it-
was all approved and done nothing but, I guess, it's fenced. I know,
Yeah.
I remember Pat Garrity coming out and checking for no trespassing signs.
There's gotta be a conditional use on it.
Yeah, but we don't know if that commercial
Jessica,
that
I don't know
that
which-
did you check, is there a
encompasses
conditional
his
use permit
business.
on
No,
this
yeah,
that
I
you
don't
can
know
find?
what the best thing for his business is.
Okay.
And clearly
I don't know
it
where
is
that
a
would even
commercial
be.
business.
There
and
isn't
it's
like
right
a
on
list
the
of that
highway,
stuff that
yeah.
was done, you know what I mean? That's part of the problem with some of these ideas, is there's not an ongoing list of places that have varianced or gotten conditional uses in something. The only way you really know that is if you were there, or if the applicant remembers that they got a conditional use or something like that. There's not a.
Is that right?
Yeah,
We
that is
should,
right.
there should be records up there, and that's one of the reasons we're going to digital
You would have to know
software,
where it
so
is and
There's no
search for it. There's no
file?
list
Okay.
of stuff.
So you have to go through the minutes of meetings
Correct.
and things?
You would have to search back through time in order to find out when it was done and what was done, but there's no list to say, we have 200 conditional
Nothing-
uses in
there's no
Yankton,
files
and here
by
they are.
property, by a tax code or anything that got them all in order or anything like that?
No.
Needs to be.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right.
This area was originally, you know, because it is rural transitional, I think the intent when it was set as rural transitional was the fact that we were moving to commercial along that highway, especially that goes to Yankton.
Right.
Jodene's was already there,
Yeah.
the truck stop was already there, and the sale barn was already back in there at that time when that was
Right.
set up. So the intent of that land was to eventually get it, it would eventually become commercial, thinking the town would grow, because you have terrible construction out there now, and I don't know what else is hiding in some of those buildings, but the Jodene property, Double T, and the sale barn are still.
They're all
viable
commercial
operations
businesses.
and Going, so,
Well,
I don't know that there's a problem as far, I don't know what the timeline is as far as the rezone to get it back to that. I'm, you know, personally fully in favor of doing it, and it needs to be done. It's just, I don't know I'm not aware or don't understand exactly what the timeline is to rezone property. I know there's a process
Yeah, there's a process.
it's in the book here, it has to be public notice and stuff like that. So, but
That's the one.
I think that we need to move in that direction.
Yeah. And that's
I agree.
what the rural transitional was meant to be, was you were meant to go in and rezone that. In other words, it
Right.
was somewhere that we couldn't
Couldn't put a
put
fence
a,
on.
put a zoning on and say this is what it's gonna be, so we
Right.
kinda left it available for the people that were using it to put the zoning on it that met what they wanted to do. You know, the hardest part of this rezone is, you know, number 7 under 1809 for us says, before any amendment or petition of rezoning is recommended for approval, the planning commission must make written findings certifying compliance with the comprehensive plan, rules governing land uses, zoning districts and regulations. I mean, there's a lot of burden put
I
upon
mean,
us.
what are you gonna do, to draw a square around, I mean, Gershner Oil is also out there.
Well, and part of what was hoped was that,
Was.
you know, the zoning would encompass multiple properties that, you know, people would see the advantage of taking a whole area and making a commercial strip on it, but that's asking a lot of people to do what the county would not do, you know? So, I mean, you know, I think what he's asking for is what he should be asking for.
You're right, I do too.
I just think the timeline that Dennis is talking about is the part, it's the questionable part. It's that I don't know if we can just prove this or if we have to take and meet all this stuff as a board before we can make a motion to approve it. That's my question.
Yeah, I agree with them, we can't just make a commitment.
Oh, if we just follow, if we
Totally
just follow down
understand,
through
I'm
here,
sure.
it just tells you pretty much what we have to do, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It just, I mean, start,
Over here is where it gets
Public.
a little bit to where there's some homework involved.
But
In
I
other
mean,
words,
you
it's
know.
not something I can do, you know, that going into the comprehensive plan and trying to back something up with a comprehensive plan is not something you can do in 2 minutes while someone's standing here waiting for you.
What
know,
section are you on, Greg?
It's a
Page
complicated.
122, section 1809, I think is where
Yes,
I'm at.
yep, that's
Doug,
for
I would
us.
have one question for you, the old Gershner Oil property, is that, does Marquardt Trucking as a business have anything to do with as far as the fuel, you know, do they pump fuel there, or is that strictly with the farming operation?
That's farming operation.
Strictly,
and I pump
strictly
fuel
that,
there.
but, okay.
You guys own that, you bought that
Ralph
from?
owns that, my father owns it.
Yeah, oh, Ralph owns that, okay, because where, yeah, that's where you got your farm tractors and stuff, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
their shop.
Shop.
And the only trucks that are fuel there are grain trucks for the business and the farm equipment,
Yep.
so.
Looks like you have 2 lots, that you have a bigger lot and a smaller one. Are you planning on rezoning both of those commercial?
Yes, the big one to the.
With the
north,
Laguna?
That is the original Joding's property, and I
Okay.
had to purchase those south 2 acres
Okay.
from another gentleman that owned that property at the time.
I think another concern I have, I think we should find out if there's a conditional use permit on this property, because if there is or if they're not, if we rezone it, he's still gonna need a conditional use permit if he doesn't have one, according,
I did have that information.
okay.
There was a conditional use in 11/5/2012. The CUP is for lagoon update, and there was a building associated with that. So that's just the lagoon update.
Just
Well,
that's-
I'm
that's what I
wondering
was-
if that's a
I wasn't
conditional
sure about.
use
I remember when talking about.
Permit
I
though for
remember
a,
that too.
for a truck terminal.
When was that issued, Jessica?
2012.
2012.
That was just on the lagoon though.
I know. That was doing it there long before that.
So, you know, I would think we'd still need a conditional use for the truck terminal itself. And so even if we'd rezone him, he,
Yeah, that's, the conditional use for this was not requested in
Sure,
this yet,
sure.
just the rezoning is what's requested this time. So then, if you have to go through the CUP, you have to want to do that separately.
So do we want, well, first I gotta ask for public input, but, are we leaning towards a continuance so we can do some research and have more information?
We actually can't rezone it.
Tonight.
Right,
There's no way we can do that.
right,
And I
but
would-
if we
and I would
grant a
expect-
continuance, then he doesn't have to pay the permit fee and all that stuff
Right.
again.
I think that's, the radar screen is pointing in that direction. It's just a matter of now we're fully aware that somebody's wishing to have that done. Because we'll have to also look at what we want to do with the property that's, you know, from here, say to the Tabor Road, 306. about commercial, turning that into a commercial corridor there.
Right.
On frontage and stuff like that with the way the property's set up, because part of that property belongs to the airport. There's a big chunk of that along Highway 81 on the west side before it gets to Hairball or Arms's pasture and then Hairball Construction goes down through. And then the sale barn owns the land around, partially around you, and then there's other land, I don't know where the ownership on that is anymore as far as that other piece of farm ground that's around the farm shed.
On the north side there.
On the north side, yeah, I'm not sure who.
Stockyard owners.
Yeah, I think so, I think they, but at one time Fullerton was gonna move out there and, I mean, that's a lot of years ago.
Yeah.
But it's, somebody else has been farming it and whatever else is going on. So I think we need to definitely move in that direction to get it done. There's no way that we can issue anything tonight.
I understand.
Is this rezone, is this something that you're waiting to do, that this rezone is gonna make okay for you, or is this just in other words, I'm curious about the time frame. How, if this is something that we need to do because you're trying to do something and you have to be rezoned to do it, or if you're just trying to be rezoned to generally come into compliance with what you think the property should be so that it works better for you to do things in the future.
I guess the immediate answer to that is Brian McGinnis said we're out of compliance, and we need to get in compliance. And I get it, and I'm trying to be a good citizen, do things the right way. And depending how you look at it, it should have been done years ago, and maybe everybody was waiting, but now here we are. So.
Okay, so you're not waiting, there's not a building waiting to go up that you can't put up because you're not zoned in this, there's no construction waiting to go, nothing like that.
Insurance snafu or something like that.
Nothing that causes this to have to be expedited is what I'm getting at. Okay.
Okay. Label that back burner.
I wouldn't quite go back for a minute.
I knew that was
Just
coming.
simmer on the front, how about that?
All
All right.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we'll have to take some kind of action if we continue.
And Madam Chairman, did anybody want to speak on this from the public?
Nope, I haven't asked yet. Is there anybody that wants to speak on this issue from the audience? Okay, hearing none, time for public input is now closed. So do we want to put a continuance on this pending further information?
So was it started as an administrative action then? How did this, or it was just told to the applicant that he had to? I mean, are there other people that Mr. McGinnis is out there checking their zoning? I'm just trying to get a handle on what's coming next.
I don't know.
Not to delay the discussion here, but I think it pertains, it sounds like. And I'm trying to figure out where it all started,
Yeah, I can't answer that.
or why. Was he tasked by the commission, county commission, with going out and doing these things?
Not to my knowledge. He was on a part-time basis, so he was just.
Yeah, I don't know how he stumbled across this.
Okay, well, I'm not saying he did.
Did you want to speak to
Maybe he
that?
did stumble across that. yeah.
Just 1 second, he would like to speak to that question.
I don't believe Brian McGinnis was looking for anything in particular, but we were finishing up my building addition to the south side of our shop facility.
I see.
And that's what caused the whole,
So there was
Oh,
some
that
active
is-
construction.
Oh,
So
I see.
that building permit you held up was kind of, that's where it started.
this is the
Oh.
building permit we got last fall and finished up after the snow and rain somewhat
Right.
ended in much
Did
later
your
than I
project
figured.
get done on time?
Pardon me?
Was your project all done within the allotted days?
Well, I think I knew that was coming, and certainly know it wasn't.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that.
But I do believe that in the ordinance that the process is that someone has to come in unless we move forward with something else. Someone else has to come in and request to be rezoned. I mean, and that's.
It needs to be more than one person.
Yeah, well, no, anybody can come in and request it, then, but you need to look at what the intent is, but you have to, like in this particular situation, you've already got a lot of commercial out there that's still
Exactly.
sitting in that rural transitional thing. You know, and now, you know, it's been, what? 16 years since we started this?
16.
That we haven't really looked at rezoning property, but that I remember from our discussions on that, that was why it ended up being real transitional, because we weren't really sure where it was gonna go, but figured that because of access to the main highway there, that's where commercial, just like going east out of Yankton on Highway 50,
Right,
you gotta protect that
Flank
area
the
for
highway.
commercial development also.
right. Even if you slice through somebody's house. By
We can
accident.
draw better lines, I don't know.
All right,
So, do we,
Do we make a motion to pursue?
that's what I wonder, if we have to do something motion-wise to start the ball rolling on this, you know, because at some point, the planning commission has to do this homework that's in here. Part of this homework is gonna require probably more information from Mr. Marquardt when you look at it and see some of the stuff in here, you know, because it talks about, you know, different things in there. I don't know if we know all the stuff specifically.
But aren't we allowed, though, once it's, a question is brought about it, aren't we allowed as the planning commission onto the board of adjustment to, you know, that's part of the comprehensive plan, that you have to go back and, you know, you should rewrite the comprehensive plan at least every 10 years, no longer than that. And, you know, this year we're going through this already, so I think it's basically the monkey's kind of on our back about we should be anticipating that and moving forward without any more. I mean, it's been brought to our attention that someone would like to do that, you know, otherwise we really wouldn't be thinking about it, but technically we should be thinking about it.
We should be, and the question is whether we're gonna just rezone this property. If you rezone this property, there's, you know, certain things in here that are questions about what he's doing as you rezone it. And, you know, I guess what I had a feeling for what you were talking about is it something where the county on its own should maybe pursue a little bit of expansion, perhaps even beyond this property,
Right.
if the adjoining properties are wanting to go commercial, is it something, you know, if we're gonna do this, is it something where we should contact some adjoining landowners and say, you know, this is the time to change to the zoning district you should be in if you wanna change, you know?
I would sure think double Ts, and would want to get in Herbold, and I don't know about the stuff there, it's hard to tell there. That's a whole different.
Yeah.
Commercial business back over
They got the vet shop,
there.
vet shop.
And that's part of commercial.
You know,
But I don't quite know how we go about that.
Yeah, I know.
Excuse me, can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
Well, two things, semi-related to this, so we can discuss it later, but first thing is, just a point of note. I have a zoning administrator starting on the 21st, so, you know, that might change the time frame that we do this. But second thing is, I do have another area in the county not related to this, that is, 2 people within that area are looking to rezone their area as well. So I don't know if that's something that we should lump in the same meeting, because I know that's coming
Yeah.
soon. I just don't,
That's-
I've never done a rezone, so that's something I've been waiting for direction on.
Sure.
But perhaps we lump rezonings into the same.
Are they a similar kind of rezone, or are they totally different?
Right now they're in ag, but they are sized more for an R2, and the requests that they have are more for R2. So they would like to rezone. The development was done in 2014. There's 2 people that live there now. Somebody else just bought another property there and is gonna be putting up a house. But all of them want to do something, and they're gonna have to request a variance or a rezone to do what they wanna do. So I don't know if we put these all in the same meeting.
Well, I'm guessing in the 10 years that we were on the board, I don't know if we did more than 1 or 2.
Yeah,
You know, it
property that I
wasn't-
kind of remember we did was Ranch Corner, when that guy came in.
Yeah, that commercial on
The
that.
original thing was really small, but he ended up owning the property behind that in order to get it all
Put together.
put together to make it more.
We did a couple of
saleable piece property.
PUDs, which are technically a rezone.
thank you.
But it's definitely a much more intricate process than a conditional use or a variance. There's a lot more involved in it. I don't quite know.
All right. So do we want a continuance, or how do you want to move forward?
I think continuance until we have a zoning administrator in place and they have a chance to kind of research what we should be doing and lead us in this might be in order, and I'll make that motion.
He wanted to say something.
Yep.
I did send out the letters to my neighbors, and I know the majority of them. I did not get one phone call from the stockyards or the truck stop saying, hey, we want to join this as well, or at the same token, any of the neighbors saying, hey, what are you doing up there? I didn't get any
Well.
input at all from anyone, so.
Right.
Sorry.
Thank you. So you had a motion for a continuance
Yes.
and a second. Was there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, until the zoning administrator takes office and has a chance to study it, as well as us.
Give us some guidance.
Yeah, okay. Okay, motion and a second, roll call vote when you're ready.
Frank,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Parker,
Yes.
Clemish,
Yes.
Michael.
Yes.
Schultz,
Yes,
Williams.
Yes.
motion carried. Okay, next item on the agenda, Daniel Grant, 30626, 446th Avenue. Applicant is requesting a variance for a decrease in a minimum side yard requirement for the north side yard from 75 feet to 40 feet, and the minimum side yard requirement for the south side yard from 75 feet to 7 feet. The south 464 feet and the north 1,361 feet, the east 447 feet and the west 447 feet and the west 487 feet in the west half of the northwest quarter in section 19, T95, Township 94 North, Range 54 West, Idvalin Township. Is Daniel here?
This came today, so,
Oh,
or yesterday.
thank you. Okay, Dan, you wanna tell us what the plan is, single-family dwelling?
Name's Daniel Grant. What I'm looking to do on my existing farmstead is build a dwelling. That's what the variance is for, is for the second dwelling on there. It's a building for my daughter.
How big is this, Dan?
The building will be,
Your building, how big is your lot size?
we're just under 5 acres and we're looking at putting on a 27 by 56 building. It's 1,540 square feet.
Would you say it was 27 by what?
56, approximately.
Okay.
And you're zoned ag, so that
Correct.
is allowed. It's
Correct.
allowed as a use. So you're just here for the variance?
Correct.
You don't need anything to build the house? You just need a variance for where you're placing the house?
Correct.
So are there topography issues or something that
No.
make it so you can't meet the setbacks?
We have, well, we have a barn
Oh, okay.
and then our original house is there and that's why we can't make the setbacks.
I see, okay.
It's hard to see on these.
So your driveway, is there gonna be a separate driveway to the new
Yes, there
structure?
is.
Where's that gonna be at?
What part that, does it state that only two
Where is
families can be on the same land
Yes, it
unless
is.
it's a farm? You know, two farms can track.
North side.
Your house,
Mhm.
South side.
500.
Okay.
This is our original house, this is the barn, the driveway's gonna come through here.
Oh, okay. All right.
House, barn. This is our house.
Okay.
This is the barn, we're gonna put it in here, so the driveway, which we already got permission from Mike, is to go through here.
This is existing right here.
Yep.
And then this is where it's gonna be.
Yep.
Yeah.
Home right now?
Where's Mission Hill Road? Is that this way? Because you live right along Mission Hill.
Yeah, 446 is right here.
Oh, okay.
So here's the barn, the driveway's gonna come through here. Mike's already given us permission.
Okay. Because this is your house.
Thank you.
Yep, this is our existing house right now. And this is the barn from before I was there.
Whose place was that? Long time ago. I can't remember.
There's no owner.
Oh,
There used to be an old farmhouse before.
who did? Oh, Gaten Construction.
Is this Robert Smith? Is that
Yes, he's my neighbor.
Neighbor? okay? Do you want me to read this into the record?
If you want to.
Okay, we have a letter from his neighbor, Bob Smith. It says, "Dear sirs, in response to the variance request by Dan Grant, I have no reason to object to this. I have talked to Dan and believe it to be a good move for him and his family. Thanks, Robert Smith." Okay, do we have any other questions for Dan?
Now, if we look at section 513, number 5, if he wasn't doing the minimum yard requirement, this would have just been a building permit. But since he is doing the yard from 75 to 40 feet is what the variance is about, because an additional dwelling is allowed within the
allowed in A.
farmstead upon the building permit if it is to be occupied by other members of the farm family unit, provided the property is not transacted or prepared, platted, or described for transaction.
Okay, any other questions for Dan? Before I ask for public input from the board?
What section were you, what part was that you were just reading, Dan?
Section 513,
Yeah, I'm there, but,
number 47, on page 47, number 5.
okay, that's what, I was up to one too high, okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on this issue?
Johnson, Vollen. I'll be the first to admit, I'm totally deaf, so I didn't hear anything because you guys avoid using the microphones. I have a question. Why do we need the variance?
The only reason we need the variance is because the way the buildings are situated on the property, he can't meet the setbacks.
What's the building gonna be used for?
It's a home for his daughter, which is allowed in the ag district. You can have more than one dwelling on,
Okay, so what happens when their daughter moves? Does it get sold to somebody else or does it get destroyed?
it's all on the same property, it doesn't matter. He can rent it out to someone else if he wants. It's all on the same property. There's not a separate piece of property being created here.
We have no, okay, so in other words, as long as we're building houses, it's legal?
It's a family member, it's allowed in ag, he just read the section.
Well,
That's not what's,
That's fine. If it's legal, it's legal. I did things were illegal that cost me a fortune.
is there anyone else in the audience that would like to speak on this permit? Okay, hearing none, the time for public input is now closed. Do we have any additional discussion?
Well, I do have one question, and you just brought it up, that if the daughter decides to build another house, he can then rent that out? He can sell it off? Can he come in and replat that and sell that part off? I mean,
We're not talking about a housing development. He's gonna build one house.
no, I understand that, but I'm just looking, and I don't have a problem with this, but I'm just trying to figure out that is somewhere, are we gonna get in trouble again on having these two houses on these small lots, and open up for another lawsuit? So I'm not opposed to it. I'm just trying to get what's gonna happen in the future. We were through this on one other one, and I think it was great. I would love to have my daughter move home and live next to me, to tell you the truth. But what happens down the road? How can we tie that together? How can we get some kind of
It is tied together. It's only on one piece of property.
you know?
It is tied together already.
Isn't that
And
part
we
of
have done this before for other families.
but
No,
isn't-
I'm just trying to make sure we cover a piece. We don't all of a sudden.
Yeah, we've done this a couple times, you know, like,
Yeah.
Stahl was it? Farmer
Yeah.
had it with a mobile home and different things.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
So the only issue here isn't whether he can build a house, the issue is the setback. The setback is the only thing he's here
The
for.
variance for
The variance
lot
for the
lines.
setback, yeah. That's the only reason he's here.
Can I say one thing?
Yes, you may.
We own the acreage. Nobody else owns anything on the acreage, so there won't be a lawsuit for someone trying to sneak under and buy a part of the acreage.
Good.
So that dismisses that thought
Well, I
process.
mean,
Honest concern, I get it, but it's our property. My wife and I own all just under 5 acres of it. We're not selling it. This is where we
You know,
came to
that's
live
where
for the
you
rest of
wanna
our
live.
lives.
That's great, Dan, but seriously, in what Zane's trying to say here, this really, what we're talking about now has nothing to do with you. It's about, we're talking about, you know, just lots in the future, and, you know, you don't know what's coming around the bend, nobody does, so
And
that's
when
just a
you
discussion.
sell, I'm not worried about you.
No.
But what about when you sell? That's the part that,
Yeah, I mean, there's always, you know, that with every piece of property.
Right.
It's like, we can set things and this is what it's gonna be used for, and we want it to be a certain way and whatever. I don't know how you guarantee
Well, you can't
that
predict
it
the
never.
future in any case.
No, you can't.
no.
We have to deal with the information that we have today. This is what we're voting on today. So,
and just so I'm clear again, I know we talked, that you can do one extra, basically, an additional dwelling unit is what it says, so that
Right.
there's no more. 'Cause we
Yeah,
haven't had
this
but
isn't
that-
a
just
housing
two.
development.
2 is the most you can have? Is that the interpretation?
See, I was against that other one on the other one because we were building a house where there wasn't a homestead. And I felt
I'm not-
that other person, the girl could have built her house on her mom's property, kind of like what your daughter's doing, you know, and like I
Oh,
said,
that's a different one, and that's,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, she owned the prop, no, it doesn't matter.
Her
Yeah.
dad deeded her
It
the
is a
property.
different,
She was given her
Different
property. There wasn't a
circumstance.
homestead there.
right.
Yeah, it's a different
I was
circumstance.
thinking of one where we actually did the same thing. They already had a home there and there was another mobile, place for a mobile home. They moved in and had setback issues. But the way I read the ordinance, it's allowed. The
Yes,
issue,
it is
like-
allowed.
Yeah.
It is.
Like it's
More
been
than
said
one place.
before, it's just the setback is
Yeah.
the issue, right?
The
You know,
setback
the
is
real-
what
The
we're
real
here.
controlling factor is if it's gonna get separated and sold, it's gotta come in here again and get platted and broken up. So,
I know.
you know, there's still a step to go.
How long can you
It's
stay
not a-
on this
It's not a
board,
step
man?
towards creating another.
Not that long. God, no.
That's part of the issue with a lot of it right now is a lot of things that dictate the financing available behind what's getting built. You know, and where, like, the one property that came here before I was on, but I knew about it, was the one that, they were gonna inherit all the property, but because of they had to get financing to build the house, they had to be
Shoemaker.
plotted down to a size that the financing company would take.
Right,
Which makes a problem, because now all of a sudden that's not allowed in an ag district, 2 acres. So then you gotta come in for a variance on that, plus if you have the setbacks away from the road. So that's something that, you know, at some point has to be addressed, but in this particular deal, all we're really talking about is the setback, or the variance from the setback side, and, you know, I don't.
yeah, side
I
yards.
agree, I know exactly what you're saying, and I agree with it totally, but it's the fact that stuff happens.
Does Bobby own the land right to the round jib?
That's a Burbrick.
Burbrick owns the land around us, Bob.
It's not Burbrick anymore, he was one that remarried.
He just farms it for them.
Who does?
Bob.
Oh, Bobby does, yeah.
Okay, so, do we have any discussion or a motion on this permit application? Variance application. He's in ag, so he's not in, you know, R3 where houses are stacked up next to each other and you have to worry about, you know, access for the fire department and stuff like that. So I don't see a problem with it personally.
It'll have its own 911 address anyway.
Right.
I'm trying to think back here through the discussion. What was the reason other than, was it topography or just physical?
And the
Layout.
buildings, yeah, physical layout, the
He's trying to get
buildings
it
in the way.
Right here on the side of this bar.
You've got a color.
So he's gonna put it up here.
That's, yeah, that's why it's hard to see.
Come in. Yeah, so I mean, it's
Yeah, okay.
pretty much wide open.
That, actually, that's.
This is
that
actually where
makes a
Bobby
big
lives.
difference when you see that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Mhm.
I didn't have a perspective of what was around it.
Sure,
I didn't,
Yep.
just
no problem.
didn't understand that, okay. Thank you.
I make a motion to approve the variance request from 75 feet to 40 feet, and the minimum yard requirement for the south side from 75 feet to 7 feet on this property.
Okay. We have a motion, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call vote when you're ready.
Frank,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Harper,
Yes.
Clemish,
Yes.
Michael,
Yeah,
Schultz,
Yes,
Williams.
Yes.
motion carried. Next item on the agenda, Mark Westerman. 43481 Kaiser Road, applicant requests administrative clarification and correction of the zoning of parcel 09.007.200.176 located at 43481 Kaiser Road. Mark, if you could come forward and clarify your situation, please.
Okay. I'm assuming you all got a copy of the letter I submitted, so, like I said, we were in the process of getting a building permit to replace our deck, which we were able to do because it was a replacement. But in that process, the zoning office pointed out that our lot is actually zoned, now I've got to get it straight here. Our zone is zoned R1, and it's approximately 2.29 acre lot. The lot has been that way since 1993 when we purchased it. Obviously, that's long before zoning was in place in Yankton County. We built our house that year. I've lived in it ever since. And when this came up, started looking at the zoning map. As you can see there, realize our lot is zoned R1. However, we're surrounded on 3 sides by R2. And in fact, the section of the plot of land that our lot originally came out of is zoned R2. So I don't know when all this happened, as far as when they chose what they zoned what. I checked a little bit in that the 20-some acres that's around me on 2 sides, which is currently owned by Jim and Donna Arns. At one point, I thought maybe Jim and Donna had gotten it rezoned, but he said no, it was zoned that way when he purchased it, which has been, I don't know the exact number, I'm gonna say ballpark of 10 years ago. I know they've been there quite a while. And, you know, similar to one of the other gentlemen, Mr. Marklet was up here, I'm not in a case where I'm not trying to do something now that requires a building permit other than the one I already received. Just that since this came up to my attention, talked to a few people, and it was suggested that I bring it up now, and I know you guys are working on cleaning up a lot of things in the zoning ordinance. So I don't have any immediate plans to build an accessory structure or anything, but in this process it became clear that, at least according to the interpretation of zoning ordinance at the time, that if I were to want to do something as simple as build an accessory structure, I would be needing, I don't know, a variance or something for my lot size and those things, which, you know, and I know some of you have been on this board for a while, some of you are new. I don't know. I've done my share of drawing in my day too as an engineer, and, you know, frankly, it looks like the line just somehow got drawn in the wrong place. And of course, I mean, you know, you were zoning a whole county.
Well, your size requirement in R1 would actually be larger than it would be for R2.
Yeah, right now I'm zoned R1.
Right.
And I'm
just mentioning that to you in case you didn't know that.
Yeah, and that, like I said, that's what it is, kind of at the root of it, is that what I've been told is that since I'm zoned R1, but I don't meet the minimum lot size requirement, that if I wanted to do anything else on my lot, I wouldn't be able to.
So in this
You're
lot
grandfathered in.
predates.
No,
You're grandfathered in.
Okay,
Your
well,
lot
that's-
is an existing lot.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, as I'm grandfathered in, I effectively have a lot size variance in place.
Yes.
Okay, and that's great and wonderful, and if that's the case, that's, as long as that's read into the record, that, because like I said, when I was in earlier, and I know I understand he's no longer in the office, and that's, I don't know or care why, but, you know, I know he was taking a very strict approach to the ordinance, which was perfectly fine with me, so, and so basically what you're saying is, if I stay R1 and I want to do something, as long as what I do abides by the
R1 rules.
with the exception of the lot size, I'm good to go.
Right.
And like I said, I had that, and that's why I say, that's why I worded it the way I tried to word it the way I did, that I was wanting it. If it's clarified, great, clarify it. If it needs to be corrected, great, correct it. If it needs to be tabled care of.
You're a lot of record before zoning, so you have.
Okay.
When was that lot created, Mark?
That lot was created in the summer of 1993, and we've
So
owned it since.
well before zoning?
Well before
Oh, yeah.
zoning.
And,
What, 10, 12 years?
Yep, Well, actually, I'm looking at your lot, a part of it is R2, that very top one, if you can see that.
Yeah, I guess if
So-
you take the right of way literally.
Yeah, then, so part of it is,
So if I want to build in my right of way.
yeah, well, then you need variance.
I don't think you have to worry about me trying to do that, Dan.
No, but I wouldn't see a problem,
Here's that commercial.
with, it actually offers you more, if you're gonna build an accessory structure, you could actually
And
build
that's
a
fine.
larger one.
Right, that's why I wanted to bring
Yeah.
that to your attention.
Yeah, well, like I said, that's fine. Like I said, the interpretation I had received prior to this was that I was locked in because of the non-conforming lot size. But you're, as the board is telling me different, we're good to go.
So you just, you don't wanna switch, but you just like it in the minutes that you came and talked to us and.
Yeah, I would
what we
like
told
it,
you?
I would like it,
Okay.
you know, and that's what I came in for mainly tonight, was to have it on the record that it was noticed. And if this is the best way to handle it, I'm perfectly fine with it staying R1. I've,
Okay.
you know,
Okay.
that's
Sounds
great
good.
stuff. All right,
Thank
I'll let
you.
you get on to the next one unless you have anything else.
Probably take
No.
public comment.
Short, sweet, good to go.
Public comment.
Oh, yes, I need public comment. Is there anybody that wants to speak on this issue?
Mark, could I ask you to come in a second, please? Sure. Can you, okay, here's the storage unit on the wall.
That's, I'm that little.
All right, hearing none, time for public input is now closed.
That's it, that's him right there.
Any idea how it got to that from this? This is the original zoning book. Here's the storage unit. This would be you, I believe. That residence right there, just west of Mola. You are the first one west of Mola, right? Jim Don Arms would be back in here. You would be that one.
Yeah, so here would be actually
Mola self-storage.
Hilltop, yeah.
Or Hilltop, excuse me, yeah.
What I'm not sure is, this looks like this looks like, let's see if we got a mile down.
And at this point,
What our question is.
Yeah.
I would go from
Not
this to
necessarily
this.
for you,
Yep.
but if this is the current zoning map,
how did that happen?
how, we're not
I-
trouble understanding how come this one here shows low density all the way to the road except for the storage unit. And this one shows, the color combinations are different.
I understand.
But they show, this is low density here, and including your little piece, but then the rest of it just to your east and everything across the road is modern.
I can't answer that. I have, all I've done is live there.
Yeah, right. Don't blame you, right?
Well,
That'll teach you.
We're trying to figure out where in the
Yeah, because even,
map.
yeah, so this would be this chart right here. So what's this?
See,
So that's
just-
moderate.
that's
Yeah, this is the
moderate.
north side of Kaiser Road where all the houses were, that's moderate.
Okay, well, but see now, are these, see these orange squares?
Those are residences, those are low
Yeah,
houses.
okay, so those are just houses,
They're not spots, they're not,
but then is this,
that's commercial.
Pink is commercial.
yeah, so I was just trying to get my bearings straight, so there's a path, so yeah, that would be right, so I'm right there, so all this is yellow, low density road, low density, all this was yellow.
On this map.
On this map. On this map.
And it has not been changed.
On this map, this part was
Hard to
changed.
know.
Yeah. So it looks like this was rezoned at some point.
So, you know,
The only other time I could think of that might have been rezoned is, there were owners between the original owners, well, what I call original.
Do I see a plat?
And others, there was a Patterson.
Where's the plat?
And I think Patterson's the one who took the 20-some acres and originally split it up. But it's in, like, I think it was all five, unless when he split it up, if he had one that he was planting, if he was planting one of like 4.8 acres or something, so he had to have a rezon that one.
yeah.
Well, it should be an
Yeah,
order.
I can't remember any rezones of that area.
Maybe
when
she
I
just
was-
needs me to sign something.
The only thing I can tell you is, I know I have received a letter about zoning request before, but I can't tell you if it's him or anybody else or whatever. It's been, like I said, it's been,
But your map coincides with my map here.
yeah, I got
The
this.
colors
map.
are different, but this coincides
Yeah, I-
not with this one.
Yeah, I got this map from the zoning office, so.
We'll have to do a search and find out.
Well, he's happy with keeping it as R1, he just
Yeah.
wants it into
Let's
the
move
record
on.
that it's.
That it's
Still, there's a
okay.
question about how the zoning ended up
being what it is.
You guys can have coffee.
I'm perfectly happy with the same.
All right, thank you.
So do we need to make any, take any action, or just
No,
make a note in the minutes?
no, he
or-
just wanted it clarified. We
He
clarified it
wants
for
it
him.
noted in the minutes after we get public.
Clarified is great. Clarified is.
So
Well,
do we need to read it in,
we can,
or read it, or
we
say
can
it?
acknowledge the receipt of his letter in minutes
And,
and accept his letter.
We should probably get public comment first.
oh,
just
I
to-
We
asked,
did.
no.
I think she
Oh,
asked, but
did you?
no-
Okay.
Yeah.
there was some extra conversation, so I don't know if
yeah.
anybody
Oh.
heard it, but we could ask.
I thought you asked and then he came up quick.
He did.
Maybe- Okay.
That's what
No,
happened.
I asked, yeah,
Okay.
and I asked before, so.
And I think this goes back to what we've dealt with before, where he was being told he'd need a variance because he didn't make the 5-acre rule, and that's
Not sure why we're seeing it.
But
not
it
been
was
that way
grandfather, the
before.
whole idea is that he should be grandfathered anyway.
He's grandfathered in.
Yep.
Should be.
Yeah, it's not an issue.
If not, he's in a big group of people.
Members request, I should have worded, I see I wrote that, I should have wrote clarification or correction. I guess I wrote and, I really should have.
So
It's okay.
Oh, son, send it back.
In deference to the-
No action now.
Start over.
well, I'm losing my word here, but should we have zoning administrator respond back that this is the case? You have to make an official document out of it, or? You know, put it in the minutes when we just talked about trying to go back and find meeting minutes. So until we have a better system, I'm just trying to help the applicant out, have something concrete. If I was, I'm not speaking for him, but if I was him, I would want something in my hand that said, from this zoning administrator, this is what was decided.
I think the meeting should be good.
Yeah, the minutes of the meeting should be.
Yeah.
I'm offering that as a conversation, but.
Okay, next item on the agenda.
Well, should we, you want to read something into the minutes for this, or?
That's what I'm saying, let's make it a little more official.
Okay, all right. So,
We can't just say, okay, we talked about it.
I guess,
'Cause there's so much
Well,
conversation.
didn't
I'll
ask
say,
for a-
I'll do a statement. I guess I could say that we reviewed the Mark Westerman administrative clarification. His lot is R1, and it doesn't meet the minimum lot requirements, but it's a lot of record pre-zoning, so that he would be grandfathered in. Does that work for everybody?
Fine with me.
I guess we want to have that as a statement. I don't think unless you want it as a motion, Madam Chairman.
I don't think it's necessary because there's no action asked for by the applicant. So I don't really see the need for a motion. He just wants clarification and we're giving him that.
You must be happy.
Any
with
other-
those stuff. I'll tell you what.
Discussion before we move to the next item. We done? Great. All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda, plat of Block 3 of Rudd's Addition in the southeast quarter of the northeast quarter, 139456. Anybody here for that plat? I don't have anything in my packet for
I don't
that
have any
plat,
either.
so- Do I just need to sign it for you, or?
Yeah, and
Oh, okay.
honestly, I don't know how to deal with plats, so I do know that it needs your signature, so I just brought
Okay.
it along.
So we do need to move and make a motion to approve that plat. So is there anybody here to tell us that it has access and all of that stuff? Can you answer any questions about it? or- Okay.
Well, they had been administratively approved a bunch of.
I must be spreading out farther and farther.
Here, you wanna look at it?
That's fine, I just didn't.
Okay, sure. Okay, so what, section 13, range 295, Yankton County, what township is it in? Does it say the township in here?
9456. Guessing it's
I got my plat book right here. If we
Be
need
Utica
it,
Township.
plat.
What
Oh, you've got yours out.
Section 139456. Northeast.
Oh,
It's the southeast quarter of the northeast quarter.
it's all those small tracks on the side before you get to Robert.
Right here.
Resolution of the city commission, is this inside the city limits?
It-
Or the ETJ?
ETJ.
In the ETJ? Okay, thank you.
That's what I think I'm gonna do.
I might not have a choice.
Might be a while.
See, I don't think there's, some of these, I don't think there's even a place for us to.
Well, there's a place for me,
Chairperson
yeah,
will
this
sign.
one has it. There's a place for me to sign. Just make sure everything's in order before I sign it.
Planning has changed a bunch, a lot of it's administrative,
Yeah,
where it doesn't come to
And they
us.
have
We
to
used to see all the
read
plats,
all
and we
the-
no longer see all the plats.
right, unless there's something questionable about it.
Acreage on it.
There's no acreage on it?
Was there a building permit on that property? That was issued for that property?
I don't know.
Because if I'm not mistaken, isn't this the old South Dakota fireworks stand?
Could be.
It well could be.
And that building got tore down and there's a new building laying in a pile there with equipment.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to say exactly what he's doing, but it appears like he's putting a road on the south end of it.
Yeah, there's a
And platting
driveway.
it out as a,
This- I was confused by the Rudd addition, thinking those Rudds in
Mm-hmm.
that end, but the old Rudd place used to be in the center of that section there, and there was a road on the south side, because Dick Payne owned it when I lived over there. He went back into Straight Street north of where Schmidt, the old cook's house down there. But they were tearing some trees out and fixing that driveway up going back that way, and I see now that there's a steel building construction laying in a pile there, and some equipment's in there. And they tore that old fireworks stand down.
Well, if he wants to build something, he'll have to come in for a building permit, so.
and actually the lots themselves are apparently already platted. He's
Yeah,
only
it looks like it.
Platting this block 3, which is a 33.78 foot strip on the south end.
Probably for access.
That'd be like an easement for the
Yeah.
driveway.
Well, that would have been nice, because I'm not quite sure we're platting a little undetermined acreage.
Yeah, 'cause see, the land, that driveway belonged to that Rudd land. He had sold off where the fireworks stand, there's a little bit, about 3 acres of hay ground on top of that hill. But that equipment stuff, all that stuff's sitting back in the northwest corner of that little field right by the, there you can see it off on the road.
Well, somebody, I had heard somebody was gonna build like a little man cave shop building out there. But I don't know how to, I'm not quite positive how we should act on an undersized plat.
So, yeah, it's fine, I just,
I don't know.
And there's no one here to talk on it, to tell us what their plans are.
Did we miss anything in the
Didn't
restaurant?
miss any activity, it doesn't look like.
sold far.
It's all.
I don't have a problem with it, I just don't know exactly if we should be variancing the lot size or.
That plot, they're looking now is.
Well, if he wants to build something, they're gonna find out if he
These
Yeah.
lots are already there, so you wouldn't be
Oh,
variancing those.
on that pasture.
Yeah, those are already lots of record.
West side,
Mm-hmm.
there was another.
So this is all he's
Always
doing.
platting the strip on the bottom.
Yeah, he's just getting his access. It's
Oh,
just-
really?
Yeah, it's just this little part right here.
Yeah. Block 3 residential. He just wants
He
that.
just wants that for an access.
Added.
There's nothing he can.
So what are
he
they
can
gonna try to
build
do?
on. I mean, so I don't see.
Build a house there?
I mean,
It's just the idea of
Yeah.
variance on
I
some
know.
size, you know.
I know.
I
Yeah.
know, but,
I don't know if we hurt him by doing
Oh,
that.
but we need to, I mean,
If we can make sure,
Who
make sure to
applied?
say that it's a road access.
Right,
Road
he has
access.
this road access.
Just plat the road access.
It's just Rudd's addition. Who applied for this?
I didn't read the name on it, I can't tell you that, but it's just a road access.
It's just
along
a
the
road
bottom of
access.
The two pre-existing properties is what it is, that's 2 lots.
I didn't even miss that one. He said that old fireworks stand is gone.
Yeah, they tore it out, I
Didn't
guess.
even pay attention.
It was falling down anyway.
Yeah, it was. So what point are you ever gonna make, we ever gonna make? That guy clean up that building up on 4681. How does that look? I mean, it's a complete loss. Right.
I suppose we should make a motion to approve it. Or should we just consider this an administrative action? Because normally he'll like call me into the office to sign something like this.
Oh,
You know what I mean? And then I have to show up to
I
sign
mean,
it. So, I mean, I don't think it requires a
I
motion.
know
There's
when
nobody
it
here
blew apart that
to
day.
talk to
Poor,
it.
Joe
to
Clemish
speak on
and,
behalf of it
people
or
that-
against
Art
it.
Lucas and those places, there was stuff blowing up.
Do you think it needs a motion?
I
I
beans
don't think it
across the
does.
road
It's pretty
down
much
there.
an
I was
administrative
there.
No, go ahead.
situation,
They were
don't you
pushing,
think?
If
They're not
if you don't
building
feel
anything on
comfortable,
it.
wait
All
and
it
get
is
more
is-
information, so.
All it is
did not
Oh,
want information.
easement.
Yet, it's a driveway.
it's a driveway.
Good enough.
We're calling it a driveway. So normally they would just call me in to sign that. If it's, I mean, if it's not attached to a building permit or anything like that.
Okay.
You know, if it's a plat that can be approved administratively, meaning there's nothing unusual about it or anything like that. In the past, the zoning administrator would be able to approve those plats administratively, but they would still need my signature, so then they'd email me and say, you need to stop by the office and sign
Okay.
a couple plats.
Perfect.
And when you get your zoning administrator here, I'm sure he'll be able to figure all those things
We
out.
That's
Thank you. I appreciate your patience. Okay. All right. Discussion on the meeting of October 4th of 2019. Sure thing.
Yeah, so I guess,
Go ahead.
I wanna wait, I wanna wait.
No, yeah, wait.
Is that okay?
Sure, you can wait, that's fine. If you guys want a couple minute break, we've been here for 2 hours now.
Are we moving to take? So, I'll get started. Any
Sure, you
discussion?
bet, yep, absolutely.
I just have, since our meeting, our special meeting on Friday, where we dealt with enforcement issues that were tasked to us by the county commission, starting first thing on Saturday morning, this is where this starts, my little narrative here that I've kind of made notes for myself. It's been an interesting last few days since then. And part of why I'm doing this is because I want to make sure that there's no,
Repercussions?
I don't want anybody to think there's any impropriety on my part, because I was approached by one of the people that we took action on one of their applications, so it starts there, and then I'll tell you what I've learned, what's happened over the last, since then. So bear with me if you would, because I want to give you all the details that I feel are pertinent to the whole situation here, and I did go, well, I'll just start from the beginning, and I'll tell you how I got where I am. And you've all seen me get a little bit emotional about things, so I'll ask you to bear with me there too, because it's not just me, but I've seen a lot of emotion from a lot of people in the last few days, and I'll keep my comments about that to a later time. But so 8:30 in the morning on Saturday, 10/5, John Gunderson was at my door, knocking on my door. So he delivered to me a draft of a letter, this draft here, and I don't have copies for everybody because I don't know, and I'll get to this later. But I found out later on, yesterday when I was talking to Jessica, I think there may be a final draft of this letter somewhere that is actually in the possession of the county. So this is what he hands me. And then proceeds to make different comments, talk about different things. There was attempts to talk about other, I don't know what I should call them, applicants. The other issues that we discussed on, there's 4 names that but there's multiple actions taken on different names. So I'll just call them applicants for lack of a better term, so you know what I'm talking about. He said I couldn't talk about any of that. I'll listen to what he had to say about his. And we had a discussion that was fairly pleasant, but the main thing was that I wanted to get across is that he gave me this letter, and this letter was referenced by somebody the night of our meeting Friday, but it wasn't really recognized I don't think we really recognized that comment as a body, and I was confused about that. So again, I didn't ask for this to come to my house, but it came to my house, so I'm letting everybody know. First thing I did after I sat back and thought about what just happened after he left was make sure, my first reaction is to make sure that there's no, what is the word I'm looking for?
Impropriety?
Yeah, the perception of any impropriety. So I called you twice, there was no voicemail available, so I didn't leave a message.
I'm sorry.
It just rings and rings and rings. So I'm not picking on anybody, I just want to, maybe I'll say this right, forget. I'm just giving you the facts, we can talk about it if you want to go back later, but so fact is, I called you twice, didn't get any voicemail, didn't leave a message. I emailed you a copy of this letter. I scanned it in and emailed it to you with the email address that I had that I have for you. So you're the chairperson of the committee, or I keep saying committee, commission. So I wanted to go right to you, I didn't get you, so the way I was taught is you just keep going up till you get somebody. So I called Dan, he's the chairman of the county commission, and I let him know the same thing. I let him know, I did talk to Dan, I said he wanted me to send him a copy of this, I did the same thing, scanned it, emailed it to him, we discussed what happened. After all that, what I started to think about and realize is that there was some mention of this letter. There was obviously some awareness of it by Mr. McGinnis, who mentioned this at our meeting, but again, I don't know if he was officially recognized. At the time, I didn't know he was no longer under the contract employee of the county. I didn't know any of that. So I wasn't really sure what to do. I felt a little uncomfortable because I voted on I voted in the affirmative to cancel permits and whatever the exact motions were for Josh Johnson, Jay Cutts, and John Gunderson's applications. So John Gunderson has spoke to me. I found out that he has information. So now I'm thinking that there's a process issue, all right? And again, I'm not pointing fingers, I'm not blaming, I'm not saying anybody lied, I'm not saying anything was intentionally left out. I'm just saying now I know that something is not right. So my thought process is I'm going to talk to I feel responsible for what I did. So I can only fix that at this point. It's Saturday. There's nothing I can do as far as official county business other than I've already made contact with those higher than me. So I felt the need to call Josh Johnson and I called Jay Cutts. And the only thing I talked to them about, I said, I want to know first how you were notified about the meeting, okay? Because I was starting to have concerns if they even knew about it after talking with Mr. Gunderson. And if there's any information that I don't want any more surprises, so if you have any more information that you don't think that the county has, I would like to know about it so that I can move forward with it. And that's what I told him. Josh said he didn't know about the meeting at first. And I told them all, I'm going to talk about all this on Tuesday. At some point in the future, I didn't know I was going to do it today until yesterday. I decided that. Then he called me back later on, Josh did, and said, look, I don't want to lie to you. I looked at I went through my voicemails and I had a voicemail that notified me of the meeting. So he said, I did get notified, shame on me for was the exact word, shame on me for not checking my voicemail, but I did get a notification via voicemail. He said, and the other thing he added, because I wrote it, is I would like to attend the meeting, but I was getting pigs that day or whatever. He said that then that's what he told me, so I'll just go. Jay Cutts said he was aware, there was a discussion that he had been in the office, at our meeting, there was a discussion that he had been in the office, so that was kind of confirmed, but he wasn't sure if it had been Wednesday or Thursday, and then he told me that based on the letter he received, which I could, he thought he had more time to respond, and he wasn't sure why there was action being taken on Friday when the letter of September 27th says he has to respond. I should look at it, but
It said a week.
It said 7 days is it from October 3rd or the 27th?
Well, it was 7 days when it was sent in July the first time.
Well, the letter, but he
And
had a
then they
letter
sent
sent in
in-
September 27th.
And then they sent him another letter in September.
I don't want to argue right now, I'm just gonna tell I'm just gonna tell everybody what, and then we can go
What they
back
said,
if you wanna ask me
sure.
questions, but I'm just telling, he said, based on the letter he received on the 27th, he thinks he's had more time. That's what he told me. And so that was the end of that. So that was most of the day, Saturday, by the time that got done. So, nothing else happened until Sunday, and I'm just, again, I'm telling everybody about everything that I've done about this since then. Zane reached out to me, and I called him back, and we talked about this letter, because one of the things that John mentioned to me was that Zane had been handed a copy of the letter as well. So we discussed the letter. And if I'm mentioning anybody's name, Jessica, Zane, whoever, if I'm telling something that's not true, please,
No.
please.
That's
So,
a letter right there.
one of the things, okay, so that was Sunday. Yesterday, the first thing I did was because I recalled, I thought the county building was closed Monday because, I'm not picking on Dan, but Dan, you mentioned it at the meeting that it was closed.
I was wrong, it's this Monday coming up.
Okay.
That was my fault.
And that only comes to bear later on for another reason, because of the discussion that we had at the meeting. There's only one issue I have with that, and maybe I'll wait, but. So I called Zane, because I had just talked to him the night before, and I said, do you remember that being done? So I called him again and asked him that, because I wanted some confirmation that I just wasn't remembering it incorrectly. And the other issue I had with trying to remember everything is there's no, the video wasn't up yet. I understand, I just found out just before we came in here that it might be up now. So I really would have liked to go back and looked at that just to get my ducks, make sure I wasn't saying anything out of line, but based on what happened at the meeting, but I didn't have that, so I called him to see. I called the county building, and they said, no, we're open, so I came in and met with Jessica, because I wanted to make the zoning, because I hadn't heard back, I talked to Dan, but I hadn't heard back from you, Christie, so I brought this in, because I wanted to make sure that I was prepared for tonight, because not knowing what was gonna come of this. So I brought it in and talked to Jessica, made her aware of the letter, and then we had the conversation about how the process, I'm gonna go back, because my focus is on the process and how we got to a situation where we don't have the information in our packet that we were given to make the decisions that we made that could maybe influence somebody's decision, okay? So I'm focusing on the process, so I asked her questions on how she was tasked with putting the packet together, who asked her to do it. I wanted to know how, because I had already looked into parliamentary procedure, if we need to go back, if we want to go back, how do we do that? I wanted to get on an item on the agenda, again, not having talked to you. The only thing I thought I needed to do to get on the agenda was go through you, but I couldn't get to you, so I was trying to go through the zoning administrator's office. I'm just gonna make sure I get all my information here today with Jessica. She confirmed that she did leave a voice message for Josh, so that confirmed what Josh had told me. And that also that Jay had been in the office, so I just wanted to make sure that everybody hears that I talked to them, they told me the truth, and I'm telling, and she confirmed it, so. Because I don't want anybody to think that I'm, all of a sudden taking up somebody's side and making up stuff for them. I also found out in the discussion with Jessica, she said, well, should I tell Joe about this? And I said, well, yeah, I think we need to talk about this with everybody on the board or commission. And why would Joe be any different? Well, then she tells me about what happened at the commission meeting on October 1st, which I didn't know anything about. And this is where I start to have really bad heartburn. And I'm gonna take a drink. So I found out from her that Mr. McGinnis was no longer a contract employee. His contract was done for, I don't know if it was terminated or just expired, I don't know, on the 30th of September. She also told me that Joe Healy had new duties given to him as far as zoning and planning, and so did she. Nowhere in our meeting on Friday, the first meeting that we had since the county commission meeting, where this was, because I watched it. So then this is what I did last night, was watch the county commission meeting. Were we told as a commission, the planning and zoning commission was not told the first meeting we had after actions were taken to change the duties of the zoning and planning administrator's office that this had happened? Would that have played into our decision? I don't know. Would it make a difference that if I'd known that we have a deputy? Is your title deputy? I don't want to misstate.
Officially it is, at the meeting it was changed to acting zoning
Okay,
administrator for administrative purposes.
Okay.
For doing building permits and
Okay.
those types of things.
But we had so Mr. McGinnis's title was a contract zoning administrator?
Interim, so.
Intern, but he was the top dog, okay? Can I say that? He wasn't around when you put this packet together, right? And I'm gonna say this right now. I talked to Jessica, I asked her directly, did you omit this on purpose? Obviously. She said, no. I misspoke, I didn't mean to say obviously. She said, no, I did not. It was obvious to me, based on her reaction to my question, and this is just my opinion, that I have no question about Jessica's role in this. She was tasked with a job, she did the job to the best of her ability with the information she had. I'm losing my train of thought a little bit. So, where do we go from here? So what I did was I called, again, Gunderson, Cutts, Johnson, told them my intentions to discuss these issues at tonight's meeting. Because again, I feel a responsibility because I voted in the affirmative against their application. I abstained from the Shank issue, so I didn't contact Mr. Shank at all. So this is where I'm at. Did you talk to Mr. McGinnis, Jessica, that there is a letter that was, okay.
And you.
Do we know why? Do we know why it wasn't in our pack?
Yeah, when I found out about the letter through you, I contacted Brian to see if this letter existed. He forwarded me an email that was sent to Rob Klimisch, and because of a meeting that Brian, Rob, David Domina, and John Gunderson had all together, Domina is Gunderson's attorney, the decision was made that all correspondence need to be sent between Domina and Klimisch. Therefore, this letter, I'm assuming, came because of that, and it was forwarded to Rob Klimisch. Rob Klimisch has the file. It's never been in my office. I've never seen the letter. I wasn't involved in the meetings. I was not a temporary acting as zoning administrator at the time. I was the deputy, so I wasn't involved in any of this exchange. So there is an email that I have with the original letter. I would presume is the original letter. That is pretty close to this. It's 2 pages longer.
Yeah, I mean, and John made a point. It says draft right on it. He said this is not the exact one that got sent to Mr. Klimisch, because this is addressed to
State's attorney.
State's attorney.
Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say Robert W. Klimisch Esquire is who it was addressed to on August 3rd, by the way. August 3rd, 2 months ago.
Yeah, and Brian was the one who brought it up at the meeting.
And Brian mentioned it, but again, he mentioned it, so that, but so we knew that he knew about it then.
Yes.
but somehow, so my concern is how the process got lost in the process of getting into our decision-making
Well, I
packet.
think the loss in process is Brian's no longer in the office.
Okay.
And if I'm not involved in those meetings, but I'm the one making the packet,
All right.
I have absolutely no knowledge of that. And I think the rush to get the packet put together and the meeting put together, if Brian had been involved in that process, since he has all the history and the background of it, this wouldn't have been missed.
Yeah, and what concerns me about that is what other information does he have in his possession that the county doesn't have?
100%
Yeah.
agree. I think that's a valid concern.
And the state's attorney was supposed to be there.
Yeah,
confirmed
he
that
wasn't
was gonna
there
be
either.
He was supposed to be here tonight as well, so.
What, is there a reason given? I mean, I
And
don't
I
want to
mean,
get too
I
far.
don't even know, I mean, is this letter attorney-client privilege in any way? Where the state's attorney, I mean, do we have his permission to be even reading this letter?
Mr.
You know what I
Gunderson
mean?
gave it to me and I
Oh,
told him.
well, he gave it to you, then I would assume that it would be.
He wanted me to make, me to know that this was, and I said, I
Okay.
have to share this with everybody else. He gave it to me and let me keep it.
No, I'm not criticizing you in any way.
No,
you
I'm
know,
just telling you,
but-
so
you know,
I'm
if I
not a
if I
lawyer,
see
so
a
I don't
letter-
know. But to me, when you gave it to me, you
But-
gave me permission to use it.
But
Well,
on
yeah, that was
point-
from the applicant.
Yeah,
But on that-
and stating his case of what, refuting all of the claims against him.
Right.
Since day one,
On that note, I think we should really, request, and I can be a part of it, we should have a state's attorney representation at our meetings. And
Apparently, it's
I'll-
becoming
I'll-
bigger,
well,
more of an issue.
It is, and it's
Or
something
maybe it
that,
wasn't, we just didn't
I
realize.
asked about that the other night.
Yeah,
I mean,
You
I
did.
think we all agree that we need to have, they have to have 3 people in that office. I think at least one of them can make
Yeah,
it to one of the
I'm a-
meetings. So
Yeah.
that would have alleviated.
So, I don't know how we want to handle this bullet points going forward, but I don't want to get off this topic, because Jessica just brought it up too. So, back to the process that I've been talking about. I'm sorry? Back to the process is what I'm focused on again. The process. So there was a process. So the county commission says, we're going to task the planning commission with enforcement. And it does seem to me, this is my opinion, that the rush to get this done and to put these packets together so from the 1st to the 4th, right? So 3 whole days. This is not about me and any voter's remorse, okay? This is about facts. So, I made decisions based on, I can only speak for myself. I made decisions based on what I saw in here, what I was told at the meeting, and what I have to believe every time I come into this room is that what's being presented to me is complete. It was proven to me the next morning that what I had was not complete. So my dilemma is, I think we have an issue on, how do I know that because Mr. Gunderson's application wasn't complete, there was what I'm gonna call a rush, what Jessica just, I don't wanna,
You can say that because I said it.
what she's calling a rush, she was involved in it. What was the rush? The rush has caused us to have a process that broke down, that now we have issues. As far as I'm concerned, we have issues. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. How do we know that this whole book isn't incomplete for every name that's on these tabs? Johnson, Cutts, Shank, Gunderson. I'm already fully prepared to say that Gunderson's was not complete. So if I feel that way, I have to feel the same way about the whole book. So,
I'm sorry, go ahead and finish.
so
what you're saying.
I'm trying to wrap it up. So I wanted to propose tonight, just without going through World War III. So I've laid out this little history. I've told you my concerns. I think there's a way that we can go back and reconsider. I've looked it up, parliamentary procedure. Motion to reconsider, which simply says that we can go back, look at this all again, and reconsider the same motions that we voted on, but in the face of new information, make the same decision, change our decision, do whatever we want. So and that's what I really wanted to do tonight, because I don't want, and I looked it up too, and you can all do what you want, but as far as parliamentary procedure, but the motion to reconsider takes into account that action may have been taken already, and I don't know what's been done. I really don't know what's happened since our meeting as far as administrative action from the office. But it allows, it accounts for that. It's, it's not a motion to rescind, it's not a motion to amend, it's a motion to reconsider. And any action that would be has been taken since we passed motions on Friday would be null and void. You could, you can look that up for yourselves if you want. But that's my take on it. We don't follow any particular set of parliamentary rules here. We don't say we don't use Robert's rules or anything like that. So we're kind of in the wind as far as, so I look for general consensus across, when I Google searched this, how to deal with this is what I came up with. And you got to kind of, in England they do it different than they do in Ohio. So, I just kind of consolidated that. And I've got a motion, a way to, I've got it on my phone if anybody's interested, I could read it. But, so that's what I wanted to propose tonight, because I really think, and again, if we want to get into the details and who told who to do what and why, I don't know if we want to go there. I don't know if that's good right now at this point. Maybe somebody does. Maybe it won't, I don't know. I just think for the applicants, for the county, the best way to do this is to go back and start over before this gets out of hand. Because it's obvious to me, there's no refuting that we didn't I mean, this is not just Mr. Gunderson telling me that there's a letter out there. We've confirmed that the state's attorney has this letter. We confirmed that our previous interim zoning administrator had this letter, and we don't have it in our files.
But it's a letter from the applicant. I mean, so.
It's from his lawyer
So he could have written.
to our
anything he
state's
wanted in
attorney.
there.
Yeah, but our state's attorney had it,
Yeah.
and Brian McGinnis knew about it.
Yeah.
Why wasn't it in our files? If Brian McGinnis,
Here's my question. You're right, there's two sides to every story. But nobody was in this room to tell us their side.
well,
So we
okay.
have to go with the side we have.
So-
Which, we're not, this isn't a court of law. We're not trying to pick, who's guilty and who's not guilty. What we're trying to do is be a zoning administrator who drives out to the property, looks at the property, sees they haven't started building, issues them a stop work order, you haven't followed the rules. Then they come in and deal with the Board of Adjustment, which they still have the right to do.
Yeah, and I told Mr. Gunderson that
I mean, there's
if
still
he
an
felt he
appeal
needed
for
to-
them. This
that was his
isn't, we're
next
not
course
the
of
end
action.
gate.
I understand that, but we are the starting gate. And if we recognize right away that there's issues with what we did,
Well, I don't recognize.
there
that.
are, well, okay,
In
well
my-
then that's
in
your
my
choice.
mind, we did the right thing because we were following the law, and the rules in the book. They hadn't started, it's cut and dried.
They were notified of the meeting and they chose not to come. Had they done their due diligence, they would have had the right to present this evidence that was mistakenly not put in the packet. We're not throwing you under the bus.
If she
I
didn't
wanna make
have it,
that-
how could she
I
put
know,
it in if she
I know,
didn't
I
have
just
it?
wanna
That's
make
why
that
our
clear to
state's
you, we are
attorney should
not
have been
throwing
there,
you under.
I agree.
Because I believe that there had been a
So,
meeting
Just
with the
to
state's
allay
attorney
your fears.
and the acting supervisor,
Yeah. And those are the only two that had access to
So-
any of that, and they weren't here. And
so,
it was supposed to
weren't
be,
here.
so I believe, and they were also, some of the applicants were advised not to correspond with anything because anything they say, they get in trouble. So it is all lawyer correspondence. So how do you do that in 3 days? How do you get a lawyer to come up here and represent them? You can just get, that's why I asked that night. Why was it such a rush?
Well, I think we also asked, if we, why somebody is coming to somebody's house, the next day too. I mean, that would be concerning to me, waking up and.
He said,
and
you
I'm
know
not-
why I wasn't there? And I said, no, I don't know why you weren't there. He said, because my lawyer couldn't be there. Okay, we have one letter from one of the names on here.
Carlos.
Mr. Shin, in his paperwork, that was a lawyer, so he had enough time to get a lawyer's response, but then again, I want to be cautious here, because Jessica left Josh Johnson a voicemail. Is that really how we intended? Was that really a voicemail? Maybe a day and a half to 2 days, depending on, I don't have his phone to tell you what time that. is that enough time to let people respond?
It isn't.
They were notified of this action in July. That was when the first letter was sent out from the zoning administrator, asking for them to respond back within a week. So I think from July until October, they had plenty of time to respond.
Well, the problem I have with that is, did they respond? Does Mr. McGinnis have other information that we don't know about? He had some here. So how do we know he doesn't have from for Josh Johnson and Jay Cutts and Carl Schenk? How do we know that?
That's
We
why
don't know that.
We have to ask Rob that also.
We have to go back and find out if we have evidence of one lack of information. We have to look. It's not responsible to not look for the rest. We have to. How can we not? We can't just say, send it to the Board of Adjustment, let them figure it out. My God. Whether you're on one side of this issue, each vote or the other, there's millions of dollars at stake. We just talked about not holding people up because they want to build little sheds. We're worried about that, but we're not worried about a $2 million hog barn being held up?
Then he should have dealt with
What
it in
was
July.
the rush? Why did we rush this together in 3 days?
2 months.
3
2
days. We
months.
put we had
July,
we
they were
tasked,
sent a letter.
we were tasked by the
They were
commission.
sent another letter in September. This is not a rush.
We were tasked by the commission. We had 3 days to be the enforcement officer. So I put I believe in the process. I believe that the process is going to work. I come in here and make a decision based on a faith. Yeah, you almost have to have a faith that everything that is in front of you is everything you need to make a decision. County officials are telling me that, no offense, Dan, but you told me the building was closed. So John and I are over here talking about deciding on Gunderson. Maybe we should.
That was my mistake.
Well,
I
I'm just. But
apologize.
this is what I'm getting back to. And that's it. Could. I'm not saying you didn't make a mistake, but the problem was I made a decision based on that mistake. Because John, and maybe John will admit to this, or I don't know if he will. We discussed it. We're over here whispering, well, geez, we could wait till Tuesday, but if the building's not open on Monday, we can't even let him know that we can't even request the information from him until Tuesday, and that's not right. So we voted that the best thing to do would be to vote. This is my opinion was, and we voted the same way, so I guess he agreed, that we should, I'm trying to calm down. We should vote to move it forward. And I told John that. I said, John, I voted based on this information, and this is why I thought it was in your actual best interest to vote to get it to the Board of Adjustment. And that was based on the fact that the county building was closed on Monday. So now I'm furious, absolutely furious, that everything that I believe was true about what I just told you, certain details, is wrong. Wrong. So now when I try to get an agenda item on, it takes me, I start this on the day I get this letter. I don't get any response from the only email and phone number I have from our chairperson. And then when I do get to the office and I work with Jessica, our deputy zoning administrator, to try to get this agenda put together, she's making phone calls, and as far as I knew, the last I talked to her, it was a done deal. We were going to get it put on the agenda. It's on the agenda, and I get here, and it gets removed. How does this look? I don't care. Perception is reality. If everything was done 100% correct and it still looks bad, it's bad. Because on an issue this serious, with this much attention paid, that has as much at stake across this county as it does, we rushed it like this, and I find out that there's information missing, and I say we, as the county did it. I think, first of all, I think it's absolutely unprofessional, and I also think that if we don't do something about this, it's going to hurt the county and the applicant. So I really think, and I'm going to say this again, if we have to have a special meeting, if we can't act tonight, we have to reconsider this, and I'm asking you to consider the reconsideration of these actions that we took on October 4th. I don't know what else I can say.
I'll second that.
We can't make a motion. It's
Can
discussion.
I ask for a special meeting?
Yes, you may.
I'm asking for a special meeting to take care of the issues I just
Okay.
discussed.
I think that the only new evidence that we have pertains to John Gunderson.
That we know of. But we haven't done the research, we
Okay.
haven't done the search.
But you're forgetting that
I'm not
an
forgetting
official,
anything.
an official letter was sent. I apologize if I'm offending you by saying forgetting. How about let me
Trust me, I've
remind
lived this
you.
for the last 3 days of my life, okay? While everybody else is ignoring my emails and my phone calls, this is what I've been doing. To the point where it's upsetting me, my wife, and everybody around me. I lost work because of it. I should have been working yesterday morning. Instead, I should have been delivering soybeans, and I was here talking with Jessica to try to figure this out, okay? I take this seriously. And you can do what you want with that, and I'm not looking for pats on the back, but do not tell me that I'm forgetting anything or that I don't know everything that's in this damn book. So I do take great offense to that. I'm sorry.
They were given a letter in July.
Mm-hmm. Mr.
And they were
Gunderson was
told-
too.
they were
But he sent a
told-
letter back, and the other ones might have sent a letter back too, but we don't know. Everybody got letters, but we don't know if they got a response because we don't have all the paperwork.
And this is dated August 3rd, in response to the July 19th deal, and I believe that Carl Shanks was also. That's what I'm saying. I think we need to have Rob Clemish here because I believe he was
Yep.
president at that meeting.
Yep.
And I've said that before. That's why I abstained the other night.
He was supposed to be here. He was supposed to be here tonight.
Do we have a reason
So-
why he's not here tonight?
I don't. He messaged me when I was in the parking lot and said he couldn't make it, and Eric couldn't make it. He's an elected official.
I'm just curious.
I mean,
We can't force
he's
him to be
elected.
here.
I mean,
I'm just asking if there was a
if we
reason.
have to get to the point, you know, I think we should just request legal representation at each planning commission meeting. I think it would help.
Oh,
It certainly
But
would
so-
help.
and I also left,
Question.
I also left one thing out, and I'm sorry. I
Go ahead.
talked to Joel Healy for quite a while. He contacted me on another matter about this, and I talked to him yesterday for quite a long time about this. And he also told me that, well, one, he was gonna be here, and the state's attorney was gonna be here, and none of that happened, so I don't know what happened, Joe. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying, this is my impression that was gonna happen. So he confirmed that also, that state's attorney was supposed to be here, is what my point was. So, sorry.
But so we all meet again to have this special meeting. He doesn't show up. I'm going home because I am not going to go through another one of those meetings without that legal representation.
I agree. I'm done with this.
And
I'm not playing games with that. No way.
I really do not like driving 45 miles just to come in and nobody shows up.
Well, I think we need to talk to the state's attorney to find out what the best course of action is. We need to find out what his recommendation is for the best course of action.
Okay? We need to do something, okay?
Yes,
So I
I'll
can,
make sure he's here at the next meeting.
can we have a special meeting to discuss this? Because if we wait till our next meeting, all hell is gonna break loose. Excuse my,
You're opening yourselves up for another lawsuit.
Well, we need to talk to the state's attorney first and find out what his recommendation is, and then find out when he can come to a special meeting, and then notify the planning board accordingly. Because if we just schedule one tonight, he'll just say, well, I can't make it that day, and then it's all moot point.
Not saying we can always drop everything either. I still got 2 guys at home working, and I should be too. But I think this
So-
is important.
We need to notify him and see what his recommendation is.
Christie,
Yes.
is there any public comment on this?
We'll have some public comment later. You can sign up,
All the time and they just don't come.
okay?
I don't know when it happened. They used to come all the time.
I'm sorry to raise my voice and take a tone,
I've got 2 guys still at home.
Oh, I understand your frustration.
but it's been incredibly difficult, okay? Now, I don't know why I got picked. I asked John, are you gonna go to everybody's door today? And he said, no. I just thought I'd start, you're my closest neighbor. I don't know, maybe you're a little closer, but you got one too, he said.
Yeah.
So, don't.
So, we need to talk to him, get the recommendation on the best course of action, and then go from there.
Is there anything I'm leaving out, Jessica, out of our conversation there? I mean, I'll ask you, I'm asking you if there's,
No, that's exactly how it went.
can I ask? I'll ask the whole commission, is there anything you feel I did that was out of line?
No. No, you were doing
Because
your duty to
I'm
the
asking,
best of
because I
your
wanna-
ability.
If this happens again, which I hope to God it never does, I wanna know what to do. There's only so many, barring driving to your house, Christie, I don't know how I could've got hold of you any quicker.
Well, I was outside the whole day. And
Well,
I
and I'm
don't
not
check
saying-
my email until Monday when I go to school.
So, this is the
So-
conundrum I was in, what do you do?
Yeah, I was working outside, so I'm sorry.
No, but in the
You know.
future, I'm asking for the future. What else? Is there anything else that I should do?
would say you did everything that you possibly could to try to fulfill your duties as assigned.
When will we know who's gonna contact the state's attorney and how will we?
I'll call,
Can
try
you
to get
ask
hold of him
him?
tomorrow, and as soon as I hear it from him, I'll have him call you, and we can set something up. I don't know what his
Well, just
schedule is, but
have
I'll
him pick
talk
a
with him
time.
tomorrow, so.
But I've got parent-teacher conferences this week, Thursday, and then next week, I gotta look.
All right,
Parent-teacher conferences, I can't get out of that, this contract day. And I'll email you when Menno's is. I wanna
Okay.
say it's Thursday, but I'm not
I'll
positive.
I'll get a hold of you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your concern.
Yeah.
It's my job, as I see it.
If we have the plan and work as far as getting hold of the state's attorney, setting up a date to have when he's available to meet with us or have a special meeting, because I'm sure there'll have to be a meeting, published and all that stuff. If that's all taken care of, I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
We have,
Oh, public comment, I'm sorry.
there's more stuff on there.
It said
I've
administrative
got two guys
items.
still
Well, I'm just-
working. I'm sorry.
We're not through the agenda, that's all I'm saying.
You're bothered me.
Be careful.
Okay, administrative items.
We had a motion in a second, do you want to deny it, do you want to vote?
We'll have to vote to deny if they've got a motion in a second.
I believe Zane seconded it,
Okay.
just a point of order, so.
So do you want to rescind your motion? Or do you want to go through, yeah.
Well, if she's got things we're gonna talk about.
We could just vote.
vote. and-
Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
We move on to administrative items.
Yep. So, she's coming.
Joe was appointed my point person, so I'm not gonna address everything that I had, but I do have some people here that had come to me earlier before Joe was appointed, and since they're here, I wanted to bring it up and just confirm what I think is gonna happen anyways, but I wanna just get your guys' approval before we have an issue. So they purchased a piece of property, and they can explain where it is, South Dakota Highway 50. Are they allowed to come up and explain where they are a little bit better?
Sure.
They're right along the river.
Yeah,
And,
I think she said you can come up, so,
Yeah.
if you want to.
Yeah, that's fine.
okay,
Right.
so
Right, Christie, you took.
Yeah, I did, no problem.
the property address is 31093 446th Ave. So just north of Highway 50. The piece of land that they have is 8 acres, I believe it is. And it's an old lot. There was a house demolished on it in 2014 per the Director of Equalization's office. There's nothing there now, so they're wanting to build. They do have to shore up the bank, which we've already confirmed that it doesn't appear they need a permit for riprap along the bank.
through the Corps. We had
They have to
asked
go, yeah.
earlier, we were the people that asked earlier about, Pat had in the past said that we could get a permit through you, which we found out tonight was not true, so.
So I'm going to make the assumption, and under the direction of Joe or the future administrator is going to make that decision, that they will have the ability to build on there. Is that going to be correct? They're going to be allowed a record? They're going to be,
As long as it's not on the floodplain.
Yeah, I think
It's not.
They're not in the flood.
They're,
A
they're
piece-
above the flood number.
A
This is the
piece of
property
their
that's
land.
just north of the bridge on Highway 50.
Yeah,
yes.
the first one
Okay.
when you go.
And
to
there,
the left.
there's
On the-
definitely
yeah.
was a place there.
Yes, and
There's,
the hog barn.
some of it fell into the river, but
Yes.
Yeah.
What
there
about-
was, there's definitely,
Oh, where the bank washed out?
Yeah.
correct.
Yes.
What about the new 2019 floodplain?
That I don't know.
Can't
You,
say.
we probably need to look into that, because that whole area is changing. FEMA's doing their records, and it could, even this year yet, be in the new floodplain. And I just think it'd be smart to check into that ahead of time.
And we had discussed that, because I knew FEMA was going to be doing a new floodplain, so I did mention to them that's something that you might want to take into consideration too. A further question on that is they want to build a house and 2 buildings in addition to that. Is that something that all 3 can go on one permit, or are all 3 of those separate permits?
As far as a building permit itself,
It'd be, you'd be going to build a pole shed first, and then possibly the house in the other shed.
Can't do it that way.
You need to
that we
build the
don't
house first.
technically allow.
Well, they're in ag though,
Or egg.
so they can build the accessory structures first.
Yeah.
Is what we were told.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah, she
what
was
I,
zoned ag then.
okay.
If it's ag, yeah.
Yeah.
And they are, yep. So,
I didn't know since it was next to the highway if it might be zoned something different, so.
Yeah, that's what I
That's
thought.
why I
maybe it had
asked.
yeah,
different
just south of them
zones because
is
the highway.
residential one.
But shit, that's pretty far out there, so.
The only other thing that I would mention with that piece of property is, we told you to just talk to the Corps. You may want to talk to the state also, depending on how far you're going with that riprap. You know, you're gonna abut that state
Yeah, we
riprap
have a
there,
state
so
surveyor out there.
they may have different rules, you know, when you're abutting that state than what the Corps has. The Corps may not be specific to the state.
Yeah, I have a contact at the Corps that he emailed me exactly what we need in case you guys couldn't do the permit, because we were told by our neighbors out there that the permits in the past were.
Listen, Pat was issuing that stuff as the floodplain administrator. That's
Right.
not the building.
Okay, see, yeah,
Zoning
we don't know, we just
administrator.
are,
He had 2.
we're just trying to gather, trying to
there's-
do what's right,
Yeah.
yes.
Properties just downriver from you that the Corps intervened on when they were doing riprap and stuff as far as making them get a permit just a half mile or so downriver from you. So they are the contact person on it.
Okay.
I just don't know the disposition of what the Corps requires compared to what the state requires when you're working next to the state property. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, combination
Okay.
there.
Right next, because we're right next to the highway.
Correct,
That's what you
yep.
said. Okay,
To get everybody involved there, so.
right, we tried as much as we can. I mean, I have emails,
So how much land did you lose during the flood?
quite a bit. Yes, quite a bit.
Dan was out there, he saw it.
About
Yeah,
2,
it's on
probably
this-
about
yeah.
acre and a half
Yeah,
is
so
a
I
lot.
guess-
Yeah, about 2, yeah.
I drove by it
Yeah,
twice a day every day because I have a different property on the Jim River, so I had to go around that way.
Maybe all their
so-
stuff's down to your house.
Yeah, they, I should have put all my stuff at their place because they were above water.
Yeah, we lost our,
All your rock is down at his place.
well, yeah, we lost our boat ramp. He actually went in the water.
Wow.
Sandy and our boat ramp, we took him down. So,
Wow.
like it's unsafe. And when we posted signs, do not trespass, because our bank is so unsafe right now. I mean, it looks like you can walk to the edge because there's grass, but it's not. It's washed out underneath. So it's like cutting in.
Good thing it stopped, huh?
They're probably gonna need
It's
almost a variance though for something like that, wouldn't they, as much?
As far as the setbacks or something?
Yeah.
That's 75 feet is what we had
Well-
talked about.
Your setback just walked down the road.
Yeah.
Well, that's part of the deal.
Yeah.
They
Yeah, the
still,
bad news, the really bad news is, yeah.
they still technically will own out to
Sure.
where they owned, even though there's no
Yeah, you
land
own-
left there.
own down.
The property will still be what the property is.
There's dirt
or
there
was.
somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we didn't own all the way to the river. According to the map, I mean, you can kind of see, there was a spot where it actually was not ours.
Mhm.
But now it's gone,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, there's something underneath there. It's just,
It's not gone all the way to
Still
China.
some people own mountains, some people own valleys, and you might have a little of both, I guess. Yeah, right?
There you go, yeah.
Hmm.
Okay, have we answered all your questions?
I think so, so
Anything
we'll
else?
be okay to just get a,
Yeah.
we'll be able to build it, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I did talk to Joe about this and he, told me one thing, but some other stuff is coming to light. I have one person who wants to build a, shed in a planned unit development. And in that planned unit development covenants, which I have a copy of, it says in there that everything built has to go through the developer. The developer was called and contacted by multiple people in that area and has denied any authority, does not want anything to do with it. They will eventually, obviously, want to go through and get an HOA, but at this point, this person wants to pour foundation this year and hit the process of building out there this year. I'm not sure what actions the county can take if I don't have the developer's approval for him to build out there.
Well, we don't enforce covenants.
This is more
That's
than a
up to
covenant if
private-
it's actually a planned unit
It's a planned
development.
unit
It's actually a
okay.
property that's rezoned based on a specific set of rules and stuff that are laid out at the beginning when he comes in and asks
Yeah.
for a planned unit development. So you can vary from the county rules by putting it in your rules as part of your development. I can't honestly say what authority we would have
No, because
to
it's,
change or impact those.
it's approved based on the plan that was laid, what the plan, the PUD was gonna be,
Mhm.
and that was what was gonna be built, and there was really no room for wiggle as far as building anything else on there. So,
It had to be pretty detailed as far as laying out your rules and what you were gonna do and all that to get a PUD.
more so even than a place with covenants on it.
Yeah.
because of the
Yeah.
Yeah,
fact
much more.
that That's what it was approved on.
I'm not sure authority-wise, unless he's varying from the rules of his PUD, then the county would have authority over him to say, you got a PUD that says you have to do this and you can't do this, you have to do what your rules said.
And originally, he did want a bigger building than what was approved in the PUD. He's willing to step back and go with what's in the PUD, but I didn't know if we could issue a building permit since it specifically states that the developer has to sign off on any development out there. But if he follows the guidelines, can we issue a building permit without the developer's approval? Or do we wait for them to form an HOA?
Yeah, I'm guessing they gotta follow the rules of the PUD somehow. I don't know what the developer just doesn't wanna do anything, or
Yes.
is still the original developer from the original
Yes.
PUD?
And,
Well, oh, I'm sorry.
oh, you're fine. And I know that he has called the developer himself, and then he also went through somebody else who's been working with the developer. And,
You will make a decision
the
either way.
anger was, it was so great there that he has zero desire to participate in anything that's gonna happen out
Won't
there.
make a yes or no.
The
No.
whole idea of a PUD is for a person, a developer or whatever, to take upon himself
The
charge of his
responsibility.
development and take it away from the county and take charge of it yourself. I mean, I don't know why you would get a PUD if you don't want to be, those are for people who are hands-on, who wanna take charge of all these decisions that the county would have a part in.
Yeah, that's different, yeah, right, it was the whole when
That's
it's the
the
whole
whole
purpose,
purpose of
and
it,
then kinda changes the game in the middle, their roles in the middle of the game a little bit, right?
Boy, I don't know what to say other than
Is
maybe
there-
they have some kind of civil recourse. You'd think he would have to just,
Well, I mean, there's gotta be some answer to those kind of questions. I mean, you know, the person could pass away at any time, and then
Yeah, right.
someone has to be the developer.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
does-
There has to be a
Yeah.
chain of
I think there's some
command.
language that it
I
goes
was
to like
gonna say,
his heirs or
yeah.
whoever takes over his.
So there's something.
Yeah, like his trustees or
I don't think
whatever.
there's very many PUDs, or
You just
excuse
can't
me,
leave
very
them
many
sitting out there.
developers in a
There
PUD
can't only
who
be
would put that
one.
everything has to be
Yeah.
approved by them. That's kind of
Yeah,
a,
that's crazy.
I mean, that's a little bit I don't know what you'd want to call it, but,
In
you
the,
know,
in the PUD section, there's nothing that addresses anything in here?
From what I can see in there and from what Joe said, we just go by the PUD.
yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to.
I mean, it's
Yeah,
more than
they're gonna have
covenants,
to
it's an
go-
actual
Yeah.
rezone.
They're gonna have to
There's an
sue
actual
the
specific
developer and make him
rezone.
become a member or.
Mm.
Yeah, I'm not that familiar with it.
Right.
It relieves me
Right.
from all the
Either
county
act
regulations.
or
General idea,
give it
but
up.
I don't understand it completely.
Part of the issue of that too becomes, even if he goes to the PUD developer or whatever, he still violates the ordinance because the permit to build the PUD was based on the plan that was submitted at the time we approved, it was approved
Yeah,
with no variation.
yeah, you can't.
So he can't, technically, he can't build anything else on that.
Can't get a variance in a PUD, is
No.
what you're saying, no. You know, supposedly those rules are set, and that's the rules that are followed all the way
Okay.
through it. You know, they're pretty intricate. When we did PUDs, they were,
Gonna have to get a lawyer.
you know, big
Mhm.
booklets, not like the booklet you had to
Yeah.
put together, but, you know, they were pretty specific on a lot of
Make
things.
his developer
Okay.
make a decision.
Utilities
Or
and
get-
like a lot of the area
Yeah.
by the lake where the ones, some of them ones are, their septic systems and what they were gonna use and
Yeah,
because they didn't have, you know, municipal hookup at that time yet for a lot of that stuff. So everything had to be laid out and they were responsible for it.
mhm.
Okay. Sounds good. That's what we had thought. I just want to confirm.
Yeah, I just don't see us having authority over things in a PUD.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you for all your work.
Get a PUD and then not want to run your PUD.
Agenda?
That's why you get one.
I asked to talk about the agenda under this earlier. How to create an agenda, who creates agenda, what do I do to get on the agenda? What's the procedures?
You contact her, and then she contacts me for approval, and within 24 hours of when when the meeting
That's the
is.
minimum. I mean,
Yeah.
Is
these
this
are
written
usually
somewhere?
done a
Is this-
week out.
Is this
so-
written down somewhere?
I
What's
think
that?
it's
Do
in
we
the
have a
zoning
procedure
book,
for this?
Isn't it?
For the zoning, I
To
don't know how the
create
zoning
an
does.
agenda.
If you want to get it on the agenda, you know, don't do it earlier than later.
Okay,
There'd be
well, I did it
laws.
as soon
There'd
as
be codified
possible.
laws.
I think,
Yeah.
we thought we were good.
Yeah. and
So
from-
now there's a
from what I
question
was
of what we
told,
didn't
I
do.
was told 24 hours notice to the media, 24 hours on the door. So that's what I,
Yeah.
When
There's-
if
there's
that's different,
website
then
too.
I'll
There's
just
there's
need to
website
know.
too.
So when we have a website, the agenda needs to be updated
And
on
that's
the
when some of
website.
that stuff changes, you know, to be honest with you, Greg, that stuff changes and we don't really know that, you know,
What's
the,
that?
the website. I
Yeah.
wouldn't,
No, I didn't.
I've been doing
I
this for
didn't
20
check.
years and I had no
Yeah.
idea stuff had to be
Picked up
posted
my
on a
packet.
website.
That-
Right,
it
well,
has-
right, so I mean,
Look on the
I didn't know
website
that
to see if
either.
it changed.
So I
so
mean-
that's what I'm
I mean-
trying to figure out.
Yeah, that's new for me.
If the whole point is doing it right, then do it right, and it has to be updated 24 hours continuously on the website as well, and on the door and all of that, with no
But
changes.
is that a general,
South Dakota codified law.
okay,
Section
for all agendas,
1-25.
for everything, for every
Public
notification?
boards.
Okay. So it is written down, but it's South Dakota.
We follow
code.
South Dakota codified law for open meetings, yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, and if you have okay, so 24 hours, so you have to notify the media, ask the permission of the chairperson, and put it on the website. Is that right?
Yeah, and post it on the door. It needs to be on the door of the courthouse.
And post it on the door.
Yeah.
There was no internet when we started this foolishness.
I thought we were close.
You have to drive up and down Broadway and yell.
I'm sure there's some that are glad that we couldn't decide on it tonight, but I'm not.
Maybe we could take turns driving to town and see if this.
Okay, are we gonna do any discussion of ordinance changes?
I don't know until.
I don't
I think it's
anybody
kind of
wants
late
it
for
in.
that. All right, so,
Thank you, Jessica.
thank you very much. All right, public comment. Is there anybody on the list? Does anybody want to make a public comment?
Somebody asked earlier, right?
Yeah.
I guess I'm the only one on the list. Is he allowed to add his name now at this point, or?
Yes, you can.
Yeah, sure. And Patty, if you wanted to speak, you can do so as well.
Sandy Williams. And
I'm finding it very interesting that we're hearing that there's issues with planning and zoning, that there's not stuff on the website, because that lack of clarity on the website was a big part of why this all started with not having people in planning and zoning. And it was a rush to knee-jerk reaction to get those people out of there and take charge and get it done right. And here we are, 10 months later, in a mess. And so I just think that the county commissioners that are involved with that really need to be held accountable. Not just the state's attorney, not just planning and zoning, but the people that were in such a rush, knee-jerk reaction to get things taken care of and done right.
Okay, next we have Jason Finch.
Thank you. This is in regards to what she mentioned with the rezoning of a lot. And this is, I'm standing in for my brother, he couldn't be here tonight, but I'll just read this letter from him and then I can answer any questions. I'm the owner of the lot in the northwest corner of Highway 81 and 304th Street. I purchased the lot a couple years ago with the intention of building a home on the lot and obtained a building permit from your office for the construction of my new shed in June of 2018. The work is complete and I'm ready to move forward with my project. In visiting your office, I was informed that the property was zoned for agricultural use and that I would need to seek rezoning of the property to proceed with my home project. I'm a bit frustrated I cannot proceed given that I had previously received a building permit and was assured at the time that I could get a permit for my house when I was ready to build it. I'm willing to submit an application for rezoning of the property to meet its criteria for residential dwelling, but really need a permit for the footings and foundation now. I need to get this done this fall so I can pursue the remainder of the house next year as spring approaches. Can you grandfather or otherwise allow me to proceed with at least this much of the project as I have relied on promises made in the past by the office? I appreciate your thoughtful consideration.
Okay, so was this lot created prior to zoning?
No.
No.
And I should clarify, he was told that he needed a variance for the lot size. He's in ag, it's from 2014, that's the one I was talking about earlier. And he had thought, well, if I can get my neighbors, we could rezone this for a residential use, because it is set up. If you look at the lots, it's like a neighborhood, and there's 1, 2, 3, potentially a fourth home going in there. So his thought was to rezone it to something more residential use. Right now, these are all 2014 plats put out there. It's a Marquardt plat that was set out. So they would have to go through the variance process for the lot size. They did not go through the variance process previously for the lot size. So that plays a role in why him and a neighbor have come in now and want to do additional things to the property.
Well, do you know what size the lot is?
Most of it, his is 5-ish, maybe a little bit more than 5 acres, 6 acres maybe. The other one, he has 2 lots out there. One is 2-ish acres and one's 3 acres. The rest of them are about the same. I would say all roughly 2 to 5 acres.
So these lots, as you looked at them, you think they were all platted after zoning?
Yes, they were all broken out. They were split off of a Ralph Marquardt area that he had there, and made into individual lots. And the other person had a house built in 2014, and his plat is from 2014.
But you think the plats went through without variances on the plat?
From what I can see, I can't find, as we just was discussed earlier, it's hard to tell, but from my initial go-through of the building permits and everything that I have in an Excel spreadsheet, I cannot find that there was any variances. His brother did say that when he bought it, he was told it was residential zoning, but it's not.
I wasn't on the
So
board.
is it rural transitional then?
From what I can tell, it's
I think it's
always
ag.
been ag.
It'd be
It's
ag.
just ag.
I wasn't on the board in 2014, but previously what generally was done is as the plat came in, you variance the plat right away when it came in, and then
Yeah. And I
that's
know
kind
that
of
there's
the
a
way.
rule right now with the registered deeds that they will not file anything that hasn't been platted out that's under 20 acres. I don't know how that all
Mhm.
plays in, but I thought when a plat came in, if it's under what's allowed, it should be variance.
That was the way it was handled when I was on the board, is you would have had a variance that accompanied the plat.
Yeah.
I just don't know, you know, unless you go back to the plat dates when it went through, because back then, 2014, it should have still been going through this board. We didn't have the administrative approval stuff that we have now going on in 2014, I don't think.
I don't know, I think we may have.
But there should have been some kind of an action on one of the agendas or something that
I think that
said, because if there was a
administrative
variance,
action
it would have had,
would
you'd had the 10-day posting for both
Right.
boards and all that.
Right.
So other than looking up the agendas of when that plat went through, you know, and that's part of the problem with all this variance and all this conditional use stuff is there's not a master list of this stuff that gets recorded. You can't go back and find these things on properties. It doesn't really make sense to do these things. It's not a lasting label that stays
Record.
with them. It's just a Yankton County thing, and it's part of a process, but it's not a process that's laid out in perpetuity for someone 50 years down the line to see whether something was varianced or whether there was a conditional use put on it. I don't know if there was or not on that one. I'm
The
assuming
point of a conditional use is people.
if the county made a mistake
Your neighbor starts.
and they let this plat through without a variance, my guess is it gets a variance. It's kind of like a road easement, you know?
Well, but the house from the building that they've constructed there now, that house that's built up on the hill, the first house, that's built on the original farmstead. And the driveway and stuff that was in there, so that newer house that's there, because John Randall built that house, or moved it in there, it's a modular, it was a pre-built, and they built the garage on it. But that's, when it was an existing farmstead that was built on, and when Ralph bought it, then I think he started plotting it out, but I don't know, like you said, where that's recorded, or how that is, how it was laid out without going through. I imagine you can plot property no matter what,
No,
but you can't build on it.
no. They won't accept a plat. They won't,
Less
then,
than-
at that time, at
and
least
district.
shortly before then, we would not approve a plat without a variance on the size, whether it was 3/4 of an acre in a 1 acre area, or, you know, we didn't approve them with the rationale that once you approve them, how do you say no to somebody building on them? Once the bell is rung and the plat is there and the lot's there,
Makes sense, yeah.
how do you say no?
I mean,
You
what are you
know?
gonna do? Is not give him the variance? Then what? Doesn't get to build?
Yeah.
That
Then
doesn't
he has
make
a
any
useless
sense.
piece of property.
Yeah.
You
So
know,
if I
and you
can
sh-
find a variance, if there was a variance down with the initial plat, they're good to
He's
build.
gotta build.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
on any of those lots, they're
Yeah.
good to build. Okay.
Generally, you would
I'm thinking
you would
there's
think you would be able
something
to
somewhere.
assume
There
that
must
anything
be.
platted after
Yeah.
zoning would have been varianced and
Yeah.
okay.
It just seems
So-
like that, there's
Or
gotta be a
McKinney's
paper
functions.
trail there.
Okay, I'll do the research.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else that wants to make a public comment? Okay.
Patty Gramco. Greg, I can really feel your pain. I mean, if I was in your shoes, I would have had a very sinking feeling. I don't know what the letter contains, but the fact remains that the permits had expired for a very long time. And there were some comments made about, I don't recognize my permit expiring. Be that as it may, with you being the one I feel picked on, and nobody else showed up at anybody else's door, That's very peculiar, and that's inappropriate. You know, there's a lot of complaints about website isn't up to date. There was a court ruling made on an old ordinance that hadn't been updated in how many years? And it was known. So there's a judge out there who made a ruling on a court case that didn't have the proper information, and that was hushed up. So let's put the prior office of planning and zoning into perspective, especially since the newly seated commissions have done their very, very best to try to make it more public, more online, and in light of everything that has transpired, I just want everybody to remember about that court case. That should have been set aside, and there should have been other things done, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any other people want to make public comment? Nope. All right. Yes. You're up. Yes. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor? Aye. Any opposed?